Welcome to the Cherry Picker, the horror movie podcast where we like to kill people, but not really. I'm your host, Zach Cherry,
And I'm Tim McKay from Tim McKay Beauty.
and today we are talking about Scream 5, or just simply Scream, in parentheses 2022, released January 14th, 2022. And this is our lead up to the release of Scream 7. We've been marathoning all of them. And we're almost at the end here because we got one more, and
Yep.
then the next week is the Patreon's choice, and then we'll be covering Scream 7.
Have we chosen the Patreon choice yet?
Well, the Patreon choice actually, well, I may as well get to this now. Has all of the nominations have been put in, technically until I make the poll. Uh, anyone can add it in. So if you are supporting on Patreon, first and foremost, thank you very much for doing that. That essentially keeps this engine running. So if you've been a fan of the podcast for a while, or even if you're new to it and you're really enjoying it, you can head over to my Patreon at patreon.com/Zach Cherry. And with your support, you get to do fun things like join us as we record these. You can see the live chat in the middle of the screen if you are watching us on YouTube. There's also shout outs that you can get, fun things like just monthly reviews or even personal video calls with me once a month. But the big thing, if you are part of the Freddy Krueger tier, you get to nominate and vote for a movie that you'd like us to cover every month. So that is the Patreon's choice in question. So I know that people have gotten their nominations in, and now you get to vote. So we'll figure out. We don't know what it is yet. I don't even know what has been nominated yet. Last
Oh,
month we did,
exciting.
yeah, last month we did Misery. But there's been like fun things before, like what was the top 10 uh it was just like years in horror
I think that
was
was
like one.
the last one you did with Eddie. I think that was favorite decades of horror. Was it that one?
It might have been some, there's been so many like top tens and like rankings
Yeah.
of like final girls and stuff like it, and it goes way back. But that's another thing. Like you also get access to the Cherry Picker After Dark, which was like the previous version of that, and the old podcast that I did with Eddie before we started doing the new one. So there's hours and hours of content that you can get by heading over to Patreon. It's well worth it, and it's putting food on our tables. So we appreciate that too. I do want to shout out some top tier members though. So thank you very much to the Michael Myers tier, Kyle Beard, Sam Levy, Ellie Hamouche, Shane Allingham, Tim McKay, who's right here with me.
Hey, hey.
Horror Slut 95, Austin Hall, Billy's mother, Cara Day, Michael Boswell, Def Con, Michelle Hughes. And then for Ghostface, thank you very much to Eric Champney, Daniel Saturn, Stephanie Starbright, Baby Ghoul, Garrison Nichols, Craig Lynn, and Josh Burrow.
Woo.
So yeah, I mean, like back to the Scream 7 of it all, because yeah, we've been doing this and we've been sort of like chatting about, the little updates that have come out for Scream 7 just before we get into the movie proper of which sequel we're talking about. And a lot has transpired in this last week. We've gotten, I think today, as we're recording this, there's like a plethora of new posters, like each for like, because they have like the different screenings. Like there's the is it 4X
Yeah,
or something
I'm
like that?
seeing
Yeah,
I'm definitely seeing the IMAX, I'm seeing the 4DX, and I'm
that's what
seeing
it is.
the Dolby Digital. It's like see it in Dolby Digital, and like that's a big one. So yeah, it just seems like they went from no promotional material to huge flood.
Yeah, and there's a new poster for each one. So it's just like that, and they, I think they had already released the melty mask one last week. I don't know if that was before or
Mm-hmm.
after, if we talked about it. I love that one because it's like giving me House of Wax vibes.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's just like there's like a lot more like hand-drawn stuff, which is just so much better than the poster that we got. But what is okay, so like do you have a preference or like the Dolby IMAX or 4DX? Because 4DX is the one that's like it's like the moving chairs
Yeah.
and they like
So
spritz water in your face.
yeah, so I mean I have such a love for 4DX for like class more like I don't know safari type movies when you're like on like a jungle safari type thing and I don't know I guess I'm speaking of like one specific experience I've had with 4DX but when I saw Scream 6 in 4DX it was wild because there was just not enough happening for like this but they had to have the seats moving so like the seats would move for no reason
Hmm.
like it'd be like when Chad I think I told you this last time when Chad sat
Yeah.
down on the bed with Tara, all of a sudden you'd feel like your seat moved, like with the mattress, like just things like that, where it was just kind of silly. So
Yeah.
I definitely won't be seeing this one in 4DX. Um, I'm not sure though. I know you're gonna see it in IMAX, right?
Well, okay, so here's the thing, because like tickets are now on sale. Like they went on sale
I bought mine already.
February
I'm
9th.
just seeing it
G
regular, I think,
Oh,
to
good for
start.
you.
Hmm.
I noticed, and I don't know if this was a glitch, but they had tickets on the Wednesday. So for the 25th, but it was only playing at one theater and I wasn't sure, but now it's gone. So I don't know if that meant that it sold out
Mm.
or they were like, oh, we fucked up and they took it off there. But the Thursday night previews, at least like for the theater that I generally go to, there's just two types of screens. So there's the 40X and then there's the AVX slash Screen X. It's
Mm.
so confusing, but I know that I don't like Screen X because that is the side projection thing, which I just like it's so
Yes.
distracting. That's how I saw Sinners, and I did not like that. But then the 40X is it's like the D box almost. It's not
D-Box?
D-Box. Yeah, we have a thing. Well, here we have a thing called D-Box, which is just like there's
Ah,
certain reserved seats that do that, like they shake around very
okay.
aggressively, which is like that. But then there's also the 40X, which is that. I think that they come together in like four, like it's a row of four seats. But then you get
Mm-hmm.
the smells, you get the spritzes, and that's kind of distracting to me too.
Mm.
So I was like trying to pre-order tickets and I'm like, I don't want to do either of those. So I was looking at other theaters to go to, and I think that I would just want the regular AVX. The IMAX screenings don't open until the Friday, so obviously I want to see it Thursday,
Of course.
and then
Yes.
like probably go to IMAX the next day, unless the movie is awful and I'm just so pissed off that I'm like, I'm not spending money on this again. But I don't like, maybe it's because I never really pay attention to how much tickets cost. But I was
Mm-hmm.
looking at the prices when I was pre-ordering, and it's just like, and this is Canadian dollars, by the way. So I think probably the conversion would be more so for like $20 in the US, but it was like $28 for 4DX. And I'm just like, that is absurd.
Yeah, yeah, that was like so we have I don't know if it's just a Regal cinema thing here, but they have RPX, which means like enhanced sound, and so that ticket was like a lot more money. But then there's just the
Hmm.
regular ticket because I'm a Regal member, I get to go to those just for free. So I think for my first viewing, I'm just gonna do the free one. This is the regular
Yeah.
theater. It's already I was so thrilled because I bought my ticket today around 4 p.m. And actually, I don't know why I said 4 p.m. I have no idea what time it was, but sometime today, and the theater was already booked, like packed. So, I'm like really excited. And I've been optimistic about this movie for a while, so
Yeah.
I'm just really looking forward to it, and I hope that a lot of people turn out for it,
Hmm.
despite everything.
Yeah. Mr. K Churns saying, I've never watched a Scream movie in the theaters because I'm scared I'm gonna get Jada Pinketted.
Well,
Uh,
that's
as
why. I don't know. That's why you have to always bring your own knife. No. Um, I sit in the back row though, because I'm actually kind of afraid. I do have a fear of movie theaters, like of just someone sitting behind me. I have a fear of like
Mhm.
being Abe Lincoln. So
Oh
I
wow.
I always have to sit in the back row. It's just been a
Yeah.
thing of mine since I was little. Like I don't like anyone sitting behind me at a movie theater.
Yeah. No, I'm like that too. I always prefer the back row. Like if I'm choosing the seats, that's where I'll go. And I've
Hmm.
never like thought of that of just like why, but I think subconsciously that is a thing. Like I don't like,
Hmm.
like being exposed behind me. Like who knows what's going on, or
Yeah.
just people like throwing popcorn or spilling their soda on you or shit like that. And
Yeah.
plus, I like being high up
Yeah.
as
Uh,
well.
yeah, I like having my eyes in the whole room. I'm a very, especially living in New York, like I don't know, I'm a very like when I'm taking the subway, when I'm going anywhere, I'm very aware of everything around me because I like to make sure I'm not like head in my phone or whatever. And so at the movie theater
Mm,
too, I like to be aware of the whole theater. We've all heard some horror stories that happen at theaters, which
yeah.
thank God has never happened to me ever. But yeah, I just love being in the back row, and I do. I'm like, maybe it's just because I've seen too many horror movies, but I'm like, I don't want someone's like knife to just come like right from behind me, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Um, but yeah, there's also so we just had the Super Bowl spot, which I know was like already had been playing online for a week, but I guess this has like really blown up. Like apparently there's like the buzz for Scream 7 has far exceeded the buzz for Screams 5 and 6.
hmm.
And I mean, it's just so like everyone's talking about it. And whether they're talking about it like positively or negatively, it's like
Hmm.
everyone is talking about it. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's just like it's getting more traction because of that. Like it might be hitting more people that are like, fuck this movie. But at the same time,
Yeah.
like the algorithm or whatever is just like, oh, there's a new Scream movie coming out. Like for people that don't necessarily, or aren't gonna avoid seeing it or anything. So
Yeah.
it's like this is gonna be huge.
I really hope
Yeah.
so because like I've seen different mixed things like about like projections of how much money it should make, but even just like I said, looking at that first theater, this is just one movie theater out of many in New York City, and it was a packed theater for the first showing,
Yeah.
7 p.m. on Thursday. So I'm excited. But do you follow
Yeah.
the Scream Instagram, like the Scream movies Instagram?
Yes.
Because I commented on one of their newest because they post constantly all day, and I love to just like let them know that I'm a huge fan in case they ever have a fan event and they can fly people out. I don't know, who knows? Maybe they'll just be like,
Yeah.
this guy comments all the time. So I commented and I was just like, oh, I'm like I can't wait for this movie. I'm so excited, and it's just wild that people do have such a negative connotation over this movie, over the drama with Sam, with Melissa
Melissa,
Barrera.
yeah.
Yeah, because like I forgot someone commented and they were like, nah, bro, actually, like good people are boycotting this movie. And I just think like I'm like, oh, you're so holier than thou. Like you're just like you're such a good person because you're a boycotting this man. I'm such a bad person.
Yeah.
It's really wild just how like, you know, people are letting that affect. I'm just excited
Yeah.
for Scream. I don't know. I don't care. And I'm actually, more excited that she's not in it.
Yeah.
No,
I
that's not
mean,
true.
for me, like I know that I've probably mentioned this before, probably very recently, but it's worth pointing out again because I've heard something, and especially like lately, I've like heard a lot of people say this, and it's almost like if you don't believe this, then you're the problem. But it's just like
Hmm.
all movies are political, all horror especially, like all horror movies are political, and I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think that all horror movies are or should be entertaining. I think that first and foremost, a movie is there to entertain us. That is the point of art. Secondly, you can find meaning in a movie. You can find political commentary, and that's not to say that there isn't political commentary and things, but like that is subjective. That is how you interact with it. So to like put this blanket statement on something that like all horror is political, I think is just like an irresponsible thing to say
I
because
don't
it
think
just
I think a lot of it was
yeah.
political in the like late 2010s. Like I think when like, the um like when kind of just when political and social messaging became part of horror movies, elevated horror in a way, I feel
Yeah.
like that could be seen very well as political. But
Well, there's definitely like movies that have like political centric themes to them. But to
yeah.
say like all horror movies, like
No.
to say like Scream 5 is a political
No.
movie,
I wouldn't
it's
say it
just
is.
no, no, not at all.
No.
You
No.
can find like meaning in it, like
Yeah.
in the subjectivity and talk about like the toxic fandom of it all. But it's not a political movie, and
I
it's
would
never
find Black
meant to be.
Christmas. I would find Black Christmas, the original Black Christmas, more
Yeah.
political than Scream,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Anyway, just my opinion, but
Yeah, we love opinions here on the Today
we
Picker.
we do, and we got a lot of them for sure. Austin Hall, all horror is political is too reductive. I love that word, reductive. It just makes me think of the Madonna clip.
It makes me think of like a reduction, like a
Yeah,
food. Like I always think of like some kind of salad dressing.
yeah. the menu, what is it like the Anya Taylor-Joy. None of this like deconstructed reduction bullshit. Just give
Yeah.
me a burger and
Yes.
fries. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Davy B. Jones. All films are political in the sense that every movie will be affected by the personal politics of the people creating it, but that doesn't mean it's making a specific political
That's true.
commentary. Absolutely.
Hmm.
And then Amethyst adds, look it up, Madonna. Hmm. But
Amethyst is funny because I just wanted to shout out Amethyst because I was watching your live stream the other day, like I told you, and I wasn't watching it live, but I was watching it afterwards, and I
yeah.
saw you mentioned the new I Know You Did Last Summer movie from 2025,
Mm,
and I saw
yeah.
I think it was Amethyst or it was Adrian, but I think it was Amethyst, Tim's favorite movie, and I chuckled. I was laughing. I was like, that's really cool. Thanks for the shout
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
I don't think that a single episode has gone by where you have not mentioned I Know What You Did Last Summer
I know, my least favorite
2025.
movie. And then somehow I'm giving it so much publicity every single time that
Yeah.
we do this.
Yeah. No, you are. But that's the thing. It's just like a movie like that deserves
Because
to
it broke my
be.
heart. It's almost like it's
Yeah.
like I went through an abusive husband, and that like traumatized me, and like that's now who I am. And that's what happened with
Yeah.
I Know Did Last Summer. It's changed who I am as
Well,
well.
it's interesting like to because we can speak to this if we're like talking about Scream 5 because that and like Halloween 2018 are very much like following the same template of, what it's trying to do. And I think that, you know, for all intents and purposes, like I haven't watched Halloween 2018 in a while, so I don't know that I can compare it and say that I like Scream 5 better than Halloween 2018, but I know that I don't like I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025 is the bottom of the barrel in terms of like the same name reboot requels that have gone on, and it feels like they took all of the things that weren't working with Scream 5 and Halloween 2018 and just sort of like went whole hog with them in that movie and then some.
Do you feel like they did that because of kind of how with Scream 4, how Wes Craven how he had that really blown out filter and how it's really distracting, but that's a
Hmm.
creative choice and it was a commentary on how like there's so many filters put over remakes and the movies of that era. So do you think that that was just them being like, well, this is our version of that. Like let's make fun of Stab 8 just doing Stab and yet like just titling itself Stab and then name our movie Scream. So do you think that
Yeah.
that's what they were going for? They're like, let's just, I don't know. They were
No,
really trying hard
absolutely.
to reference Wes Craven in every single nook and cranny of this film they
Yeah,
possibly
no,
could.
no, absolutely. That it very much so to the point where they were starting to mix up the lore of the franchise, and I
Yeah.
really want to get into that. So actually, do you have
Yes.
a premise that you would love
Oh.
to read for us?
Yes. A very good premise. Let's see. A new series of Ghostface attacks shakes the town of Woodsboro, targeting a group of teenagers, drawing survivors of past killings back into another deadly mystery. As cult connections resurface, the story blends suspense, dark humor, and self-aware commentary on modern horror, exploring how legacy characters and a new generation collide when violence returns to a town that can't escape its history in Scream 5 or Scream 2022. That wasn't very good. Sorry, that was ChatGPT again. I have to stop using ChatGPT. I feel like it talks in all these like funny, I don't know,
Yeah.
adjectives.
In some cases it's a very helpful tool, but in others it's just like it's reductive.
Yes,
To bring that word back around. But yeah, we could also call this movie Five Cream, which I think
we
was,
could.
how it's been lovingly referred to for a while. But if you haven't seen Scream 5, you can watch it on Paramount Plus. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it's streaming there. There's also
Yes.
like the DVD and Blu-ray and 4K are all available. I've got the Steelbook over here. I think
Yeah,
I've all
you're
of
making me
them.
want the physical media again because you watch the
Yeah.
commentaries, and I feel like that's the only way you can watch the commentary, right? So
Yeah.
you're
I
making me
mean,
want to get physical media again.
unless there's like it's available on digital and the commentary for this. Like I've got notes. But yeah, this movie. So like let's just like look at like the long history of like sort of like the Scream absence because we had Scream 4 come and go, and obviously that didn't do uh what they had hoped it would do. And we were kind of screamless again for a while until they released the television series. Did you ever watch that?
I did. I
Yeah.
did. I remember just not liking it. So, and because it
Mhm.
was so, I think even how it just had a different mask, until maybe the last season. Did they bring the regular Ghostface mask in the last season?
So what had happened is like the first two seasons were a completely different story. It was more of
Yes.
like Scream in name and yeah, like a lot of like the same sort of like meta aspects. It was more like meta as a television series and how could that work as a TV show? But it was a different killer, different mask. It's called the Brandon James mask, and it's more of like this surgical thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just and
Yes.
it wasn't a robe. It was a like almost like this raincoat situation.
And it was all about
And
the mom and like the mom and like something with Brandon James. I remember now.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and the mom is the babysitter from Wes Craven's New Nightmare. But Wes
Mm-hmm.
Craven did produce the show. Like he was attached, at least for like the first season, because this was, right around the time that he passed away. So he was
Do you think it
involved in
was
it.
like in name only? Do you think it was like they were like, hey, we have to put him on this because it's his character, it's based on his story?
I don't remember. I'd have to look into it, but I think that there was more involvement, like not like creatively, but at least in terms of the like getting it going. But don't quote me on that. I have no idea, really. This is just a recollection because at this point, this is 11 years ago. So I remember the first season and just being like, yeah, like I watched through it, but it was just sort of it was there, and it was
Hmm.
it was enough to sort of satisfy the itch that we had in lieu of like any Scream movies, and season two came around, and I remember just like getting more into that at least like as it got to the end of the run, and it left on a big cliffhanger. I'll try not to spoil it. I don't even know the specifics of it anyway to spoil it. But for the third season, they decided to do a hard reboot and just
Hmm.
completely. It was like 3 years later, so this came out in 2019, and they're like, okay, we're bringing Ghostface back. We're bringing Robert L. Jackson back to do the voice of Ghostface. So they did all that, but it was like a 6 episode thing, and it wasn't very good,
Mm-mm.
to my recollection, even though it was more in line with like the brand of Scream. It was kind of a disappointment because it didn't carry on the story that had been established, and also just like quality wise. Keke Palmer was in it.
Was
So
she?
like yeah, so
Ah.
from like Nope, and
Oh, of
various other
course.
things. But
I think of her more being in the Ryan Murphy Scream Queens.
right, yeah, I think, and then she had done that before this. So that kind of happened, and from my recollection, because 2019, the end of 2019 is when Scream 5 was first announced, when it was sort of like, all right, like Spyglass came in and they acquired the rights to it, and the plan was that there was going to be new movies and et cetera and so forth. And from what I remember, it's just like the third season had just sort of like come and gone, and it did feel like very posthumous in a sense that just like why did they even bother doing this if like it was sort of like going to be a movie again? And I guess it was just like passing through different hands, and maybe the
Mm.
rights to it were just sort of, it was like their last chance to do something, or whoever had it. But yeah, it was just like finding out that Scream 5 was going to be a movie. Like that was a huge deal, and that's kind of like when I started being a content creator on YouTube. And I
Was from
remember
that was from
like,
Scream 5?
yeah, at the onset of that, and just sort of like that's sort of like how I got momentum, just sort of like
Oh.
following the production of that, because it was, like we would get the news, it'd be like, oh, David Arquette has signed on, and then Courtney Cox, and then Nev
Mhm.
Campbell, and it was funny because like Nev Campbell was just sort of like, yeah, I haven't heard anything, it just nobody's called me, and it was like verbatim the same thing that David Arquette was saying, and it's just like, oh, so that's a
Uh-huh.
line that they gave you, and you're, which is all
Yes.
fair, like they have to. There's secrets must be kept. Um, but yeah, I remember like hearing the details about it, and it was sort of like it was very interesting because it was like shrouded in mystery. Like it was very clear that this was like moving to a new group of characters. We didn't really know how Sydney or the original people would be involved, but it was just going to be a thing. It was just sort of like a girl with a mysterious past
Mm-hmm.
returns to her town, and that was really all that was known. And then it just, kind of blew up from there.
Yeah, I remember the marketing for this movie being really huge and being all about like, you know, they definitely had a great marketing team that came together and they said, okay, what do we have to hit on? We have to hit on the OG cast coming back, and we have to hit on our love for Wes Craven. We have to hit on like that we're gonna have so many Easter eggs relating back, and it's like truly a movie that Wes Craven
Hmm.
himself would love. And how these two directors are the two directors that really were the ones to do this. And I don't know if that's
Hmm.
true. I feel like I overheard in like later interviews that they were given like a deal with Paramount, and they were kind of given like a list of options, like IPs to choose from, and they chose Scream
Hmm.
from that. So I don't know if that's definitely true or not, but
Well, I have a
um
little bit more insight to that, just from what was said on
ah
the commentary. I don't know if that's a different story that you're hearing otherwise, but I just wanted to read
mm-hmm,
Sarah Campbell. Hey, not to be dramatic, but this installment sucked all the joy out of the franchise for me. I haven't been excited for a sequel since seven is changing that a bit, but I wish I stopped at watching after four. Well, that's
mm,
a shame. But I mean, like that's the thing. Like
yeah,
we can still live in the past movies that we enjoy. Um,
mm-hmm,
that happened for me with the next installment. And, that'll we'll talk about that
yes,
next week. But yeah, in the commentary, so Guy Busick and James Vanderbilt, who are the writers on this, they were kind of like the catalyst of it, or at least like Spyglass. What had happened is that they acquired the rights to all of the Miramax Weinstein
mm-hmm,
library. So that would include Scream and Hellraiser and a plethora of like, other properties. But they had called, I think they had called James Vanderbilt because he has been around longer in the industry, like is much more established, and he, I guess, is like had a working partner relationship with Guy Busick, or like brought him in, and they went to the office, and I guess they just had like a general meeting,
mm,
as they're typically called, and just sort of like showed them what they had. And it's like, is there anything here that you would be interested in? And they like saw Scream and they're like, oh, Scream. That's what it's going
mm-hmm.
to be.
Okay.
So at that point, they started writing. I don't know when Radio Silence came on, but they had recommended Radio Silence. It was sort of a thing where it's just like, okay. And I know that Guy Busick was a writer on Ready or Not. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
that might have been the connection of how they got involved. But with Radio Silence, like where things different with like Wes Craven is that Wes Craven was like very much like not fully in control, obviously, because there was, always the Weinsteins that were there to,
Mm-hmm.
put their foot down about something, or want things a very
Oh, for
specific
sure.
way.
Mm-hmm.
But uh he would go in and he would like it was almost like kind of the privilege of like Kevin Williamson's script. Kevin Williamson would write it that like at least in Scream 2 where he would write something and be like Wes Craven will make this scary.
Yes.
So, giving a lot of leeway to Wes Craven. So he was kind of, like what a director should be. It just like completely like had his hands in like almost like every aspect of it, and just had that creative control. Whereas with Radio Silence, it almost seemed more like they were directors for hire. It was just sort of like contracted to do this. And that's not a slight against them in any way. Um, but I do always get the sense, like I think that they're really good, like from a technical standpoint of just sort of like translating, because I've read the script
Mm-hmm.
of both movies. Like they're really good at translating what that is from the script to the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But it never feels like they have a hand in like shaping it, or it didn't feel like they, even if there was an opportunity to push back and have things a certain way, it just felt very much like we need you to make this movie. We need directors
Hmm.
to do it. So this is your job to do it.
Hmm.
And I always, at least like especially hearing the commentary, it felt like James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick were in charge. And in terms of writing, I didn't like how they described their process because it seemed very much like they would separate and they would work on like a scene, and like James would have his version of it, Guy would have his version of it. They would come together and then I guess like rewrite it from there. But what they were finding, and this is what they said in the commentary, is that we had the same ideas and we were just writing the same
Mm.
thing, which to me it begs the question, like, why do we need both of you then? Like if you're paying for two writers to come up with the same material, it almost feels like kind of wasteful. Like I think what would have been good is if they had different ideas and there's someone to like push back on something and just be like, no, that doesn't work. Like, let's try it this way. Because there's a lot of instances within this movie where I feel that better choices could have been made. But ultimately, I know that the one thing that they were staunchly adamant about is that Dewey had to die. And they never
Mm.
really gave any sort of like reasoning for it. It wasn't like this is why it has to be done. It was just like, I mean, I guess like they needed something to like effective happen and traumatize the characters that we've known. But the way that they made it sound was just like this has to happen regardless. There's no
Yeah.
conversation that's going to be had around this of like what are the pros, what are the cons. It's like we just have to do it.
That's how I feel like they definitely must write their work, because I feel like Scream 6 was a lot like that too, where it's almost like they have certain beat points that they're like really excited about, and they're like, okay, so we have 8 beats, like, or 8 scenes, or 8 like things that we want to really happen, and so now let's connect those dots and let's just have fun with it, and let's just like, so you go in the other room and you see how you connect these dots, and I'll go in this
Mhm.
room and see how I connect them. And um and so it almost just seems like, how are we getting to the next thing, how are we getting to the next
Yeah.
thing, as opposed to it all feeling like it has a purpose and being all together.
Yeah. And like with the Dewey of it all, because I find his death to be like this is what I'll say to their credit. Like killing Dewey, like if you're going to kill any of those three, Dewey does make the most sense because he is sort of like the glue that holds both of them together. Sydney and Gale don't
Hmm.
really have a relationship outside of Dewey, and like we talked about that last week with Scream 4, is that there's still like tension there. It's not as bad as it was in like Scream 1 and 2, and like, in
Hmm.
3 they were, in a better place. But these are two characters that would not have anything to do with each other outside of Dewey. So killing
Hmm.
Dewey in a way kind of like forces the two of them to get closer together. And I always find that very interesting because it's just like here's two people who've had conflict and now they have to sort of reframe what that conflict is because we're missing like the one person who was there to sort of like, make it smoother for us. Whereas like if Gail had died, I don't think that that would have changed Sydney and Gail's relationship or Sydney and Dewey's relationship all that much
Hmm.
because they would have still had their relationship before Gale, and then the same with like Gale and Dewey. If Sydney had died, they would have still had their relationship that wouldn't have changed before or after that. So it did make the most sense for Dewey to die.
I agree with that. But I also feel like I could just see them being like, okay, we need to make something really impactful and we need to make something that's really dramatic. And so who can we kill off? Like, let's pull a Game of Thrones and let's kill off someone important.
Yeah.
And who can we do that with? So like, I feel like when you think of I thought they knew they couldn't kill off Sydney. It's just like that would be unforgivable. And I feel like
Hmm.
they were like, okay, so we have Gale and we have Dewey. And I feel like when you think of Dewey, the word like aw comes into mind. Like everyone's like, aw,
Hmm.
Dewey. Like his theme is like, oh, like it's kind of like a sweet, he's always been a sweet, cute guy. And then when you think of
Hmm.
Gale, it's like, I love Gale. She's a fierce bitch, but like she doesn't give the same impact. Maybe she would to you because I know she's your favorite character. But I feel like for what they assume the majority of Scream fans watching this, like they feel like the impact would be more with Dewey. So
Yeah.
I thought they were like, okay, great. So let's just like do something big, and it's gonna be a big swing, but it's worked in other shows and other movies, so
Yeah.
let's try it.
Well, Dewey is definitely like he's the most innocent of
Yeah,
the three of them. I think, Gale, if we're like
sweetest.
doing a like just sort of a scale of like the most virtuous to like the most morally corrupt,
Mm.
Gale would obviously be at the end of the corruption, whereas like Sydney, I mean, she's not really a corrupt person, but she has had these like morally gray moments, like, at the end of Scream 2, where she's just sort of like, shoots Mrs. Loomis after she's already dead, just like just in case, and just like
Just in
coldly.
case.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
things like that. Where it's like she has it in it. She doesn't want to channel that ever, but if push comes to shove, she will. So yes, Dewey was probably like the most impactful. The problem I have with Dewey's death is that it was done in such a perfunctory way where it felt very telegraphed. It didn't it, like it just the writing
It's
was very much on the wall. It just seemed like
yeah.
all roads lead to Dewey dying, and then and the way that they did it is like they made him stupid, and it's
Well,
like
it's like, what if that phone call didn't happen? He wouldn't have died, and Amber would have died. So it's like it's all based on that phone call.
there's like contrivances that are thrown in there, but also the fact that he's allowing a phone call to disrupt
Distract
him or
them.
confuse him, or even the fact that he had to like go all the way to the elevator and then be like, oh, I have to go back, I have to shoot him in the head,
Yeah, like you didn't
and
learn after Scream 3, like that you have
yeah.
to shoot him in the head. Like you didn't think of that. And like even the way that they were talking in the elevator, like his back to the killer, like I don't know. I mean, it's obviously a movie, but you think that by now he'd be
Yeah.
like, nope, right off the gun, let me put this in the killer's mouth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I would have. I just would love to see, because I mean, at this point with Sydney, she's always kind of, and I think that a lot of this has to do with Nev. It's just that like she questions, she pushes back on things, with the filmmakers. And I know that there was a lot of instances during this production where she would kind of go in and just be like, I don't think we need to recite all this
do
dialogue. Like this is all going to be cut. Sydney's not going to
Mhm.
do that. This is what Sydney would do, sort of thing. It's like she knows the character. She's played it a million times. Courtney, I mean, like with Courtney, I don't want to say that she doesn't care because I
Courtney is the
wouldn't.
Jamie Lee Curtis of this like franchise.
That's actually a very good way of putting it, because like she turns up, she's a professional, but I don't think that she really remembers the rule throughout, or just like the different movies or the nuances. It's just sort of like, okay, I'm showing up. What do you need me to do? I'm gonna do that.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, for all intents and purposes, like as a actor, that is a great thing to have. Like, like I think directors would love that. It's just like she's doing exactly what we need her to do. But when you have directors that aren't really, have a deft hand in handling a character that has already existed for 25 years at this point, like that might be a little treacherous if, people are just sort of like going in with blind ignorance. Whereas I feel like Sydney, or sorry, Nev is like she just feels so much more connected to the character. I know that she did an interview and they mentioned like, well, your character is married to Patrick Dempsey's character from Scream 3. And she's like, "Oh, I didn't even know that. Like I didn't even realize that."
Yeah.
But in hindsight, now that we know with the release of Scream 7 that that wasn't Patrick Dempsey, so in a way, she's still correct, in not assuming that it was supposed to be Mark Kincaid.
But wasn't the original plan for this movie to get Patrick Dempsey back? So wasn't it supposed to be
I
Mark Kincaid? And then now they're gonna just make it Mark Evans because he wasn't
Yeah,
available, which is a coincidental same name. She's like, oh my God, you remind me of this cop I
yeah,
used to know.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know if there's. a familiarity in there, but it certainly was a thing where we can't get him, so we're gonna create this brand new character. But I never even felt that like with Sydney in Scream 3 that there was a connection there. It always felt like kind of shoehorned in that he was, at the cottage at the end with the popcorn and the
Yeah.
cast and being like, even when he's like, we're gonna watch a movie, and she's just like, what?
And
What
he's
kind
like
of
a whole
movie?
different person by then too. Like it's funny, like the whole
Yeah,
movie he's dark, mysterious. His whole life has been nothing but
yeah,
torture. And then like just because like this one case is solved, he's like,
yeah.
"We're gonna watch a movie." Like pops popcorn in his mouth and like pops his hip and runs off. I'm like,
The
okay.
sun, the sun has come
Missed thing.
out, it's just
Yeah.
like
The
Gail's got
birds
like
are
a
chirping.
Gail's got a flower in her hair, it's
Yeah.
just like things are not right
She has
here. I think
butterfly clips. She has butterfly clips in her hair that she's like, you
yeah,
know what? These are
yeah.
in right now, so I think I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. I think that
But
like
wait, was that the same house? Sorry to cut you off. Was that Sydney's house from the beginning of the movie
of
in
three,
Scream
yeah.
3? Yeah.
Yeah.
So she didn't even like leave that house. Like she just decided to stay there.
Well, why not? It's a great house. She just, was she left the door open. That was the
Yeah.
payoff. Is like she doesn't have to
I would think she'd be
look.
like, "Hey, actually, I'm gonna move back with my dad," or like, or I don't know, like, you
Yeah,
know what? Maybe I'm like alone up
maybe.
here.
Yeah. Where was the
But
dad at the end there? Why wasn't he part of the movie?
I know, right?
Yeah, yeah. And Jill and Kate,
That's so funny, right? You think that they would
Yeah.
celebrate her surviving this like at least once, like in their
Yeah.
lives. Like they'd be like, "Hey, you know
Yeah.
what? We're so glad that you survived this for a fourth time,
Yeah.
third time."
Davey B. Jones says the ending to three really bothers me, specifically Sydney leaving the door open. I get that it's supposed to be her getting over her trauma, but girl, close the door. You're gonna let so many bugs in. That's very true there in the
That
country. Yeah.
and she knows that like and that's what I've noticed about this new Scream 7 and it's just funny that she's like this isn't going to end until I end it. Like something like that. But it's
Yeah.
like that's if it's Jason Voorhees or it's like a killer that like I mean this could never stop. This could literally keep going on for the rest of your life because there's always going to be someone mad at you and always someone that can buy that costume and put it on. So like
Yeah.
it's just funny that like this literally could just keep going on forever and ever. So why leave that door unlocked? Why leave that door
Mhm.
open? Because it could just be, but tomorrow there'll be someone else wearing the costume. So
Yeah.
you have to be hiding your entire life.
Yeah. But anyway, it was supposed to be Patrick. I get that was
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
idea. And I mean, even in like writing the script that way, of just sort of like it's almost like it's creating a problem for the next movie, even if you're not involved, because it's like, here, you deal with this now of like who the husband is.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there was a conscious effort to make in this movie when they're like, okay, well, in case we can't get Patrick Dempsey to come back for the role, let's not specify that it is that Mark. Let's just say that it is
Yes.
Mark. So I think that like at least
Yeah.
someone on the production side of things was like cognizant of that and just being like, let's not like put ourselves in a corner where now people are expecting Patrick Dempsey because we
Hmm.
flat out said that it was him, and then we have to like fork over a shit ton of money to pay for him because that would be a
Yeah.
thing like his
He would be
agents
the
would
star of the movie. He would want to be
yeah
the star of the set. Like he would like
yeah.
I don't know if that would even go well with Nev. Like I don't know. She's not I mean because
Do you
I've
think
just heard
that
he was like that on the set of that
Thanksgiving?
Dexter show Dexter on
Oh,
the that it was
right,
like
with
the
SMG, yeah,
with
the
SMG there was like a whole little thing about like and I can see her like she would never say I'm Sarah Michelle Gellar but I can kind of see her feeling that way and
yeah.
like and him being a little bit more like he was like blatantly late to set whereas she's such a professional that she's on time
Oh,
and she is there and just because she's Sarah Michelle Gellar like that doesn't mean she's gonna stroll in late just to be late whereas that's how
yeah,
she was seeing it from his point of view like oh he thinks it's his and it's kind of a it's a control thing like if you're late that means we have to wait for you that means you have the power
yeah.
so
I don't
yeah
know anything about that. That's
well I
that's
was
not
there no
yeah.
I wasn't
That's
that's
none
not
of my business. But yeah, like but in terms of Nev, I think that like she's always like felt so much more connected to the character, and I feel that every time she comes back for a new movie, she so like effortlessly slips back into the role,
perfectly
and it's in a way where I can read in her performance like you have lived like that you have like life experience for like the last 11 years like there's new experience and she just plays it so effortlessly like it's just a very lived in performance where it's
Hmm.
just like and with Gail and Courtney, it's I don't think that it's as big of a challenge because Gail's thing has always been like, this is my job, this is what I do, and like there's a consistency to that. So it's like it's not a knock against her or anything, but it's sort of like it does get into that Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode thing where it's just like I'm just gonna come back and be
Yeah.
like whatever version of myself I need to be because like Gail kind of she does feel a little stiff and like robotic in these last two movies.
Especially the
Hopefully,
next
yeah,
one. And the next one really pissed me off. I know it pissed you off too. And like
yeah,
that's where I feel like she at that point didn't care. Like, I would feel like I would wish that Courtney would be like, hey, I don't think this is a good direction for Gail to go in. I don't know.
hmm
I just feel like it was kind of she's just like, yep, I'm along for the ride. I'm happy. Hey, it's popular. It's in right now. It's
yeah,
a leading role. Like, of course, I would love to stay relevant. So
yeah.
just kind of like that.
Courtney
And
Cox will always be relevant, like
she'll
there's
always be
yeah,
relevant, but she very much does like the Jamie Lee Curtis thing where I've watched like a lot of interviews from like past Screams, like even from Scream
yeah,
4 and then Scream 3, and she's like it's really scary. Like she like says that
yeah,
almost every single time about every single Scream movie. And it's just funny because I'm like she's just like the Jamie she's like the cheerleader of every single movie. It's really cute.
yeah. Do you out of the three returnees here. Well, I guess we also have Judy, and we'll get to her. But out of like the
Mm.
three, like the OGs, like who do you think kind of delivered the best? And like, not even so much as like the performance, but just like their character arc. Like whose arc did you enjoy the most in Scream
Oh,
5?
I guess arc wise, Gale. Um, because I do like that she like because in Scream 5, like I
Hmm
believe it. Like because I don't think she's a bad person yet. I think that she was left in the middle of the night by her husband, which is insane.
Yeah.
And I don't like Dewey's arc in this movie. I don't like I think it's just sad to see that he turned into an alcoholic and that like he was living the last couple of years of his life alone in misery.
hmm
So and that's just such a sad way for his like he was on top of the world in the last movie that we just watched in Scream 4. He was
And
like the
for yeah,
sheriff and like and they had him and he was proud like he was finally proud of himself. Like that was a nice arc.
yeah,
So to crash it all down, I don't like that. And then Sydney, um she it's not an arc for me. I feel like that one it's like she's a mom. She's just kind of like she does the thing that they do in movies where they say, you can't do a single thing to get me back in that town. And then it's like they're there the next scene. It's like
yeah.
5 minutes later. She's like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm back." Same thing happened. Same thing happened in Aliens with Ripley.
Yeah.
She was like, "I'll never go back to that planet." And then she was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go back on one condition."
Mhm.
So yeah. So
Yeah. Well, I think that's what like we were talking about before, just sort of like Dewey being the glue that, she's not anticipating that he's going to get killed, but like just that sort of him being taken out of the equation sort of changes everything. Because for me, I actually do think that Sydney is the best part of like at least like the OG. And I would even say of the movie. Because of out of all the characters, like I feel like other than Sam, she is the one that sort of like has the agency and her own sort of storyline. And even though it's very truncated to just really like the last act of the movie, for all the reasons I said before, just sort of like her coming back and just like effortlessly stepping back into the role and giving it that like lived in performance. Like I really enjoy. There are aspects of this that I really don't like, and I think that really comes down to the writing. And this is one thing that I don't know if like Nev was even just like thinking about because like who knows. But the fact that Gail and Sydney show up at the house at the end there and like they're hear the screaming, Amber comes out, shoots at them, hits Gail, and then runs
immediately.
back inside.
Hmm.
And yeah, immediately. Let's talk about Gale always being taken out in the
Yeah.
finale. But Sydney, because she's just like, we have to get you to a hospital to Gale, and Gale's like, no, and like just finish this. And Sydney's just like, okay, and she goes into the house, and I'm just thinking like, why would neither one of them call the police at this point and be like, yo, we know who the killer is. It's this bitch who just
Yeah.
like ran out of the house, shot at us. Here's a description of her. This is the
Hmm.
address. She might live here. This might be her house. Send help. But the
Yeah.
fact that they don't, and this is like one of the biggest fatal flaws of the movie is that I feel no tension for Sydney going into that house because I know that she didn't call the police, that it's almost like the screenplay is telegraphing to us that no danger is going to come to her. She is going to be all right. Because why would she make a stupid decision like that? This is Sydney fucking Prescott, as she says earlier in the movie. So it's like, even if she was like that confident in her abilities that, oh, I'm just gonna go in there and shoot some people up and then I'll be home to have dinner with Mark and the kids later, like that she would do that.
Yeah.
But that is one of the aspects that I think really sabotages the climax of the movie.
I love Sydney and I do love her. I love that she was in this movie, but she was kind of to me giving a little bit of, and I think it was exactly the way she was written, was kind of
Mhm.
giving like the tired, experienced detective role, like where she comes back to town and it's
The
like one
Morgan
last
Freeman.
case. Yeah, like and she's just kind of got like, but she cares about her job, but she's been through it all and she's back in town. And
Yeah.
like and then she's just like when she's like, I put a tracker in her car. Like how? Like you just tossed it in the back seat because Tara was in the back seat. It's like, how did you get a tracker
I think
there
she
so
put it
quickly?
on the side of the car because we saw her kind of
It just like
lingering there.
it just what like
It was just like one of those like, she's like James
tape
Bond. She just
what
put a
exactly like, exactly.
yeah.
She's just this like mysterious like agent
It's
that comes back to town and
yeah.
she has a tracker she can like
It's
just
magnetic.
yes, magnetic tracker, that's the word.
Yeah.
That sticks and yeah, I don't know. So I loved her in this movie, but then she comes into the house and it just felt very like quick. Like it felt kind of it felt like she was there for as a day player.
Well, it didn't. I mean, at least more time was spent developing her character and her presence in the movie than it was for Jennifer Love Hewitt in I Know What You Did Last
Yeah,
Summer. So, like
100%.
that's like just speaking of the comparisons to like all of these movies. Because even in like Halloween 2018, Jamie Lee Curtis was not I don't think she was the main presence. It might have been like
But
equally
be,
split.
but that was different because she was so like she wanted to be the passion of that movie. Like she
Yeah.
like whereas like Sydney wasn't. Sydney was like I'm over this. Like Sydney's like "Ugh, okay, hey,
Yeah.
I'm back because I heard about Dewey. Oh, like but it just didn't seem like I mean I'm glad she wasn't like Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie.
Mhm.
But I feel like that's why maybe Jamie Lee Curtis felt like a bigger presence in that in Halloween 2018 because she like made it like her mission. Like she's a big drunk, she's a raging alcoholic, she's like angry all the time. She's so she felt like a bigger presence.
Yeah. Davy B. Jones says, I actually think where Gail is in five makes perfect sense for her character. Four showed she wasn't really happy in Woodsboro, so it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense she'd
I
move
agree.
to New York and that her and Dewey would break up.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that like the Dewey of it all feels very out of place
Yeah,
because
that he would just do that's horrible. Like,
yeah, that he would, yeah, without like saying anything. And then, like, clearly, I guess, like, they've had very minimal contact in the last 10 years or however long it's been. But it does feel very out of character for him to do that because, like, if anything, like, he would be the one that would be more willing to make the sacrifice for her. And that was sort of like part of like, not just the promise that he made in proposing to her at the end of Scream 3, but
Mhm.
also in Scream 4 when she's like on the gurney and he's saying like uh, we're not leaving each other, like it's you and me
Oh,
forever,
I
like
know.
yeah, so it just
See?
so
They
it
run such a
it,
good track.
it does feel like a betrayal of his character, and I feel like it's not like they have their conversation and this is another issue that I have with this movie, where it feels like a lot of the conflict between characters feels a little forced. Like it feels like we need to create these situations just to get them there. So with Dewey and Gale, it's almost like I was a coward and I couldn't handle it. And it's almost like, but why? And it makes me think of I Know What You Did Last Summer and sort of like the Ray of it all and like the Ray and the Julie of just sort of like, well, we're not together anymore and this is like really bad, but it's just like, but how did you get there? What was the breaking point? What
Yeah.
is the
Did you
through
just
line?
did you ghost each other and never speak? Like did you
Yeah.
not have a huge divorce settlement? Like did you not like
Hmm.
have like lawyers involved and like all this crazy stuff?
Yeah.
And I guess like he kind of turned into the Laurie Strode 2018 Dewey in this
Yeah.
movie where he's living out in the boondocks like this like crazy place. He's all hardened, he's angry, he's drunk, he's
I don't
all
think he's
right.
like he's not very angry. I think that he's like content when he's got like his things that make him happy, but like, one
But like
uh
he's all hard when like Sam comes to the door and he's like, "Yeah, you got 2 minutes." He's like that
but
bitter
he
old.
but I actually think that that's in character with him because he's always kind of like had that like passive aggressive sort of, like I don't know,
That's
phone
true.
head, like that kind of attitude where it's like he's saying like you have
When
this
I wear this
many
badge,
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
He'll entertain it, but he's gonna be grouchy about it as he does
That's
it.
true.
A real tribal chief says the music that plays when Sydney walks in the door at Stu's house is so good. I think like this, I really
Mm.
like I guess it's called shit, what is the title of the track? But it's like Sam's theme song. And it's the one we hear. I know it's like it's at the end of the movie for sure, but it like kind of shows up here and there. But it's just like a really nice like sweeping melody that just like I hear it and I just think it's like has this like promise of hope and like everything's going
Mm.
to be good
Hmm.
and whatnot. It's a beautiful piece of music, but by and large, like I'm just not really a fan of the Brian Tyler scores for like 5 and 6, and it's not because they're bad, but it's just like they don't feel like Scream to me.
Yeah.
So that's why like when she does go in the house and they're at least like referencing Sydney's lament and all of that, it's just like okay, this now we're in Scream. This feels familiar.
Hmm.
It's like, did you see The Exorcist, whatever the new one was called?
Yeah. Oh, the
Believer?
believer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
like there's a part in the movie where I think it's like one when the main character is going to find the mother from the first movie, Chris,
Hmm.
and he's driving to her, and then suddenly the tubular bells plays out of nowhere, and it's just like, okay, so is this Exorcist now? And it's just like, no, not really. But like that's what it felt like. It's just like, okay, now we're gonna give you the actual Scream music to make you like see like, no, this is Scream. So I am very excited that Marco Beltrami is coming back to score the movie because I feel like, even if you're gonna get another composer, like have the Scream music at the very least.
Yeah.
And like that's why the Halloween franchise is so successful because you have that score. Like that's one of the huge parts of it that works, and like why the music in H2O, feels off because of that
Yeah.
whole situation.
Yeah, there's something like haunting about the Marco Beltrami original score.
Hmm.
Like that those chorus voices, like oh, I can't go that high, but oh, it's like the Sydney lament, I think.
Yeah,
You hear like these like orchestral voices, like oh, and
it's
I
very
love that.
ghostly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, that adds to the big emptiness of her estate that she lives on. And you
Hmm.
hear that like that echoing, it's like almost like ghosts like surrounding her empty haunted house.
Yeah.
Um, so I
Yeah,
really
I
like
think
that.
I love when a score feels like it is like doing contextual work for the narrative. Like it's just, there's so many aspects of a movie that tell a story. Like obviously the script is going to be the first one, but then there's just like the visual aspect. Like what is the cinematography doing? And then of course the music as well, because the music is very much a voice and like the sound
Hmm.
design. So, like I think that, for a movie to be really good, it needs to be firing on all three of those cylinders, if not more. And the original Scream is certainly one that does that. I don't know if it's really doing it here with most of the music that they have. And obviously, I'm not a fan of the the score, or sorry, this the screenplay. So there's that aspect of it. Let me just see here. Adrian Phillips says, "I'm glad she wasn't like Sally Hardesty, TCM 2022. The killers walked past it at some kind of as some kind of flex. Franchise over. That clunky diary monologue takes it for me. Oh, yeah, we should start talking about Sam and
Yes.
Tara of it all. So the diary scene in particular, because this was one that was a bit awkward, and I know that Melissa Barrera herself has said almost like in a criticism that she was surprised that those were the takes that they had used for her because
Hmm.
she felt that she had given a much better performance in other takes. So the ones that were used, it's almost like it's just coming off a little awkward, but it's just like it has that same thing where it's just like it's the dialogue I don't think is very good, and it's almost like just trying very hard to make it work for what it was.
But I also feel like it could be one of those things like do we know for sure that she had better takes? Like what if she thought she did better in other takes, but like what if that really just was they were like that? Like why would they not choose the best take? Like why would they be like,
I
you know what, let's
mean,
choose one that's awkward and like strained. It
well,
seems like that's how she acts, kind of.
I guess like based on like what I know about Scream 6 and Dermot Mulroney, of just sort of like the way that, his character was performing at the end, and then sort of like the way that they're like, okay, can you do it bigger? And then they ended up using
Mm,
that for him instead. So
that's
I
true. I
I
mean, that
don't know.
performance, yeah,
Yeah,
there's no
like
excuse for that.
I don't know that their instincts were correct with like, certain things within these movies and just like the way that characters play them. And Sam, I mean, like it's just like she does come off a little whiny here, but like the dialogue is really bad. Like this whole story, it's just like
Hmm.
it's like there was this diary in the attic, and I read it, and I was reading the script not too long ago, and I wanted to read through that scene, and it's really awkward. Like it's really painful to read through it and just like all this stuff. And then Tara, it's just being like, Sam, like she's just interjecting, and she's like, no, 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 let me finish, let me finish. I'm like, this feels like filler here. And in like the action, it's written like confession almost over. And then once it's finished, confession done. And I'm like, okay,
Get
I don't
over
know that there was ever a
yourself.
way that this could have been good.
No, and it's just funny because it almost. I mean, I do feel for the actress because I feel like no matter
Yeah.
how she performed it, like she might have thought she did way better, but I'm sure like with that clunky writing, it probably never
Hmm.
would have seemed that great. And so because there's even like a part in her story where she like has to catch her breath almost, and she's like, so then I go into mom's room and I confront her and I tell her what I just found. It's almost like she's almost bored of her own story at that point because she's like,
Yeah.
God, and then she's
And
like,
I'm
I didn't even
standing
realize.
there. I'm
Yes, I'm
standing
standing there.
there and I'm talking to mom and I don't even realize that dad is there. But only he's
And
not my dad. My
yeah,
and that was the day that I found out who my real father was. It was Billy Loomis.
yeah, exactly. This huge dramatic pause, as if by then we don't know who, like we couldn't
Yeah.
tell who that's your father.
And then
Um,
Tara, as Amethyst is saying here, Tara saying "get the fuck out" makes no sense.
because it makes no sense that she's like, get the
Yeah.
fuck out, and then later she's like, no, Sam, all I meant was that I was mad that you didn't take me too. Like, it's like, no, you yelled at her and you told her to get the fuck out
Yeah.
after this like
Yeah.
emotional scene.
I think that
Um,
the drama and the tension is just like it just has like a very counterfeit feeling to it. Just like we need you to
yeah,
be upset with each other in this moment. And I think like even going from 5 to 6, and I don't want to like talk too much about 6 because we're gonna do that next week, but just sort of
yes,
the fact that in this movie, Sam and Tara, like I guess like the main conflict between them is that like you abandoned me 5 years ago when you left town, you left me with mom, et cetera, and so forth, and that's been really shitty. And then at the end of this movie, it's sort of like this promise. It's just like, I'm gonna be in your life now. Like I'm not gonna let
yeah,
go, yada yada yada. And this is exactly what Tara wanted. And now we're in Scream 6, and Tara is like, "You're suffocating me. Like let me
yeah.
live. Let me have my own life." And it's just like, what? Who are you, Tara? What do you want? Like you say you want one thing, and
Yeah,
then you do a completely different
maybe if it
thing.
was like 10 years later and Sam was smothering her for 10 years, but like no, it's
Yeah,
like literally been a year, maybe less than a year
yeah,
that Sam's been back in your life and like just trying to do the best she can after a horrific experience that you both lived through.
yeah.
And yeah, Tara's like, enough is enough.
Yeah, there's no consistency. It just feels like if there's a way we can like force conflict on these characters, we're going to do it. And they do it in the same way. Like if we can force these two characters together, like the way that like let's just say that Tara and Chad have no interaction in this movie whatsoever. They share one scene where when they're in the hospital at the beginning when Sam and Richie come in, but they don't
Hmm.
like talk to each other. Chad is dating Liv. I don't even think he mentions Tara. Like when they're sitting in the park or the schoolyard or whatever it is at the beginning, Chad is just sort of like they're very flippant about the fact that Tara has been attacked. like all of them, and it's just sort of like okay, like these, which is typical for these movies. Like we always have those characters at the beginning and like the fountain scene where there's certain people who are like yada yada yada, but I don't get the sense that Tara, like they talk more about Sam than they do about Tara. Like it just makes me question like is Tara even a
Important
friend
to this
of,
group.
yeah, like he seems to be important to Wes and Amber, but like
Well,
everyone
Amber,
else,
of
yeah.
course.
Yeah. Well,
Um, yeah. Sorry, go on.
no, ask me your question.
No, you said Amber, and so I just feel like
Mhm.
Amber in this movie just is weird to me. Like I just feel like I've never been a fan of Amber. She's very angry this entire movie. She's very like yelling at Mindy in the first scene of that like opening thing, and then she's like, I don't know, she just kind of comes across like this like unlikable friend, and then she's very overpossessive of Tara because I know that in the original script maybe they're supposed to be like more of a couple or something like that, but like
Yeah.
either way, I don't care. You're this very overprotective, like, angry friend, and and especially when we get to the end, I don't like the switch that Amber does because it's more than just it's almost giving yeah the Scream 6 dad vibes like that kind of switch that he did
Yeah.
where it's completely different than a Mickey switch or like or a Debbie Salt switch, like it's not the same kind of thing. I just feel like it's too bizarre.
Yeah. Well, Amethyst is saying, I know they rewrote it, but Tara and Amber still scan as girlfriends to me. So yeah, in the script
Yeah.
they were lesbians.
Hmm.
And I guarantee the studio was like, no, you cannot make the killer, one of the killers, a lesbian. Because they're afraid that that's going to make people angry.
Mm,
And I to
of
that I
course.
say, wouldn't it wouldn't it make people angrier if you chose not to be inclusive and like allow your killer to be a lesbian?
Yeah. No, because then
But
it's so annoying because then that means like only people that can be killers are people that like culture says is okay
yeah.
to
No,
be killers.
I would feel like I would love to see like a gay killer or just someone like of like the LGBTQ representation, or even like a person of color. Like every killer has been white. So it
Hmm.
just feels like it's a conscious effort to maintain, I guess, like just to the thing that will like annoy people the least. And I really
Yeah.
highly doubt that there would be like riots that people would be like, "How dare you make the killer gay?" And like it's just
Yeah.
weird that we're in this place where it just like it's so like we're walking on eggshells, not to be offensive, because like I if anything, I think that like them being in a relationship actually contextualizes those characters so much more if them as lesbian girlfriends, rather
Hmm.
than like what it is now where it's just like okay, so she's just like this possessive friend.
Yeah.
But I agree with everything that you say. I do not like Amber. um I don't think this has nothing to do with Mikey Madison. Mikey Madison is the is the only Ghostface killer who has won an Academy Award, by the way, for Honora, which, by the way, like I love her performance in that movie. I didn't love the
Yeah, but she
movie.
did not deserve an Oscar. I'm so sorry, but I do not think she's an Oscar-winning
I
actress.
think
She's
that
an
like
okay actress at best.
I think that I was much more rooting for Demi Moore
Yeah.
in this case, even though I was not a fan of The Substance either. But like I think that like Honora was not a movie that I liked, but Mikey Madison was the best part of that movie, and she was the only thing that was really getting me through it. But
Hmm.
in terms of this, like I just like what this character is, I feel is like giving nothing. And it does feel very inconsistent. And like you said, with the killers in the past, like Stu, when he reveals himself as the killer, even though he's like a lot more hyperactive and all that, I still see the same character. I still
Yes.
see the Mrs. Loomis when she changes. I still see the Billy. I see the Mickey. I see the Roman.
Like they
Even I
took
see
the
the
quirks that the
Charlie. Yeah.
character already had, like the small quirks and the little like yeah, little funny things that the characters did as themselves and then just
Mhm.
enhanced it as opposed to being completely new characteristics.
Yeah. Yeah, like Amber does like a complete about face, and like Richie, like he's consistent. Like I think that like
Hmm.
everything that his character is doing, like it works. But with Amber, it's just it is kind of an anomaly. And I think that, she's I prefer her much better to like the killers in six. And I think there is an aspect of her that I enjoy. But it's more so the aspect of her getting the shit beaten out of her because I think that like it's funny that this movie is very much about toxic fandoms. And what I've found interesting, especially like if you go on like Twitter or Reddit or anything, everyone has their own perception of what toxic fandom is. And especially
Hmm.
now with like the release of Scream 7 coming out. And it's funny because I'll see like criticism more so pointed at, people like you or I who are fans in the way that we are, where we're like very like lovingly remember a thing and like and just like kind of cherish it, but like they'll kind of like lump that into a thing that like, well, we're actually these like brutal killers that we are so obsessed with this thing that we would invent this whole scheme and stuff like that. But then I see these deranged people who are like who have no scruples, no sense of decorum, are like willing to kind of like challenge and fight anything just for the sake of like fighting something and tear it down and without knowing who it is or what it is. And I know I like at the time I noticed a lot of it were like people who were really into Amber. And I actually
Hmm.
got like a lot of like hate because I just like had announced or like made video rankings that I didn't like Amber. And it was just like, okay, so you've chosen to like hate on a person completely because they don't like this one character. But like that's the thing, if you see yourself in a character and you kind of hold them up as your role model, it's just like, but you're not seeing that character's flaws or like why they're actually kind of a piece of shit. Like it almost
Hmm.
like, what does that say about you?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just like, and if it's believable or not. Like, I don't know. I think I would have liked it if Mikey Madison turned out to be one of the killers and she was, instead of going a kooky like, yeah, hun, like crazy kooky route, like
Hmm.
instead of doing that, if she was more of the angry one, like she was the one that like was so vicious and she was angry and she wanted to just like kill, 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 and she wanted to like and she was like
Yeah.
screaming and angry. I think I would have liked that because she was giving that vibe the entire time. So again, when you unmask yourself as the killer, I think you should just enhance the qualities that you've had throughout the rest of the film. So if she's this like always sarcastic, really droll, always like, oh, come on, Mindy, like the whole time she's just this like miserable person the whole movie, and then like the end, I think she should just be this like really angry, like she hates the fans, like she hates the toxic fandom, she
Yeah.
whatever. Instead of being this kooky crazy girl, because I just like that didn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like, um, she's kind of she is angrier in a sense like at least with my head canon of just sort of like the phone calls because like we have times where it's going to be Richie on the phone and there's times where it's Amber, but the times that we do know for sure it's Amber, like when she's at the hospital where clearly that's not Richie and she's
Hmm.
talking to Sam, there's like this very like antagonistic way that the voice speaks to Sam, where it's just like it's not the same when the voice is speaking to Tara or Judy or Sydney. So it always felt like, okay, so part of their plan is like whenever they were talking to Sam, Amber wanted to take over because she had like a personal beef with her, and that was like kind of there in the bar earlier when when she was talking about her and just sort of like trash talking Sam and being like she
Yeah.
is not a good sister and yada yada yada. So there was clearly like a personal beef, but then again, this is something that was never embellished on. We never really got any context to what it was or why Amber really hated Sam all that much because if the
Well,
reason was that like Tara left, like Sam left
yeah,
Tara, and that was the thing. It's just like she really hurt Tara's feelings, but just like why do you care about Tara? You tried to kill her, like they're like make it make
true.
sense, you know?
Yeah, so true. Like, why are you so offended? Like, to a point where it like lives inside of you. That you're that
Yeah,
angry against Sam. If like this whole time you're like you can't wait to kill Tara.
yeah,
Um, who do you think? Because I wanted to talk about a little bit about Judy's death scene and her son
right.
Wes. Um, who do you think did this murder? Or do you think that they were both involved for this? for this
Yeah, so
death.
Amber's the one that's outside who stabs Judy, and I think that that's just like very like in her frenetic kind of method of just sort of like stabbing and like dragging the legs and all that stuff, which is like was also in the opening scene with Tara.
Hmm.
And then Richie is the one who kills Wes. And there's like it's much slower, much more like done with much more intent. And I think that like
Mm.
Richie like goes for the neck, like he's just like goes for more like of a fatality, whereas Amber's a little reckless and she's just sort of like boom, boom, boom. Which again, like her behavior later on when she just runs out and starts shooting all willy-nilly, she doesn't have a plan. She's just doing things all crazy like. So I think that actually like of all the movies, really, this is the one where I think that the directors did the most kind of like visual storytelling to imprint on the film like who the killer was here and who the killer was there. But it's what's interesting is that like in interviews, they've been kind of like I wouldn't say that they're coy, but they've sort of like given different accounts of like who it is. They've said like, "Oh,
Mm.
well, we like to believe this," but then in another interview they've said this, and this is where people like pick and choose what they want to hear and like move their goalposts. But I think that they did 50-50 in terms of the kills. Amber would have been Judy, Dewey, obviously, and Liv, obviously. And then Richie would have been Vince, the cop in the hospital, and Wes.
Um, Watching the hospital scene this time actually, I actually kind of gave it a little bit more of a pass this time because when you see Richie and then like Ghostface comes up behind Richie and like knocks him out or whatever, it does look
Hmm.
like Ghostface is a little bit shorter than him. And then so I was like, okay, that could be what's her name?
Amber.
Amber. And
Yeah.
then I don't know if it's just because I really want to like believe that it's her in that costume killing Dewey that like when like the final shot when you see Dewey fall to the ground and like the camera's zooming out and you see Ghostface standing there, I was like, actually, I could see that being Amber. I was like, actually,
Mm,
I don't know if it's because I wanted to see it, but I was like, Ghostface does look a little short and his shoes look a little small, and I could see those that being a little
yeah.
girl. I don't know.
From what I understand, the stunt performer who was in the costume was 5'10".
Yeah.
Jack Quaid is, I think, over 6 feet. So, he would be
Mm.
taller. And then I think
So if
Mikey
it really was
Madison,
Amber, then it would be
yeah.
like this little tiny person.
Yeah.
But
But that was another thing that was said in the commentary is that like they brought up the aspect of like height and the killer's shoes and all that. And ultimately they're just like it doesn't nobody cares, nobody's looking for that, and
yeah,
like lo and behold everybody is scrutinizing that, so it's kind of there's a in between like a nice kind of middle ground where you can probably get away with that, but I think
yeah.
in especially in Scream 4 with like a lot of those scenes that we talked about last week, and here there are some cases where it's just like it requires a lot of suspension of disbelief in order
Yeah.
to buy it.
However,
Uh,
in Scream 4, when Charlie gets knocked out and gets tied up to the chair outside, it does look like Jill is the one that knocks him out because
yeah.
Ghostface is shorter than him.
Okay. No,
So I will
fair
say
enough.
that.
Fair enough. Um, yeah, what was I going to say about just back to the amber of it all? Right. The other thing that like just kind of confuses me or I just feel that was like missing is that Richie, 100% I believe like he is a fan of Stab. With Amber,
Hmm.
it never felt like that's the thing. Like, is she angry or is she a fan of Stab? Other than her just being like, we met on a like Reddit thread and like yada yada yada, we realized that we had the same ideas and became obsessed with the Stab movies when my parents bought this house, sort of thing. But it never felt like she was a fan the way that Richie did. And that's just like
Yeah.
another disconnect that I had with the character. And one thing that I've always said that I feel is missing with these two, because these are like the first duo of ghost faces that are kind of like completely in line with one another. Like they are not betraying one another. They're like in it to win it. Whereas like obviously Mrs. Loomis betrayed Mickey, Jill betrayed Charlie, and it's questionable with Billy and Stu. I think that the dialogue in three from Roman sort of suggests that Stu was meant to be a fall guy if he
Mm,
needed. And I think,
if it came down to it, yeah.
if it came down to it, I don't know, like it's not 100% clear if Billy wasn't going to kill Stu at the end. Like he may have kept him alive, but it also felt like a situation that like if Stu died, I don't think that Billy would have minded all that much. Like he was
No.
expendable to him. But like these two are they're pretty loyal to one another.
Yeah.
Um, which is is fine. I wish that they had explored that loyalty a little bit more. But what I do feel we're missing here is that there isn't like some sort of tension between them. There isn't, we're missing that. And what would have been fun is if like during the conversation with them, with Sam and Sydney, like held at knife and gunpoint, that they realized in that moment, Amber and Richie, that maybe they didn't have the same opinions about the Stab franchise, and they started arguing about
Yeah.
like, well, no, my favorite killer is Mrs. Loomis, and like, no, it's Roman, or like
Mm.
whatever. And then that could have been like a fun way to have Sydney and or Sam kind of get the upper hand, or just like distract them, or do something fun with them.
Well, I think that goes back to kind of how I said if maybe if Amber was more of an angry killer, like
Hmm.
there could have been more opportunity for them to start bickering or start fighting, kind of like how Billy was like he became angry and
Yeah.
how he started like fighting with Stu and everything like that because of just like the situation that was happening. Um, but uh, but I agree. I feel like they definitely did love each other, and I definitely could see it be more of a situation where like because Amber's young and I feel like Richie's
Hmm.
older, so I feel like he definitely like, kind of manipulated her in a way. He kind of like met on this message board and he's older and so I just feel like he knew that she was a young girl in high school that he could kind of like dominate and kind of like and so
Yeah.
anything that it's any kind of situation where like you're obsessed with your boyfriend so you're obsessed with whatever he's in love with. So he's in love with the stab movies and this is his whole thing. So you're like, yeah, baby, let's go. Let's kill him. Let's do it. And
Hmm.
like so I don't feel like maybe they were as important to her like you said. I feel like maybe she was more in love with him and wanted to do what made him happy.
Yeah. But I don't get that sense from her, and that like she's being manipulated by him. And I don't feel that she's manipulating him either. Like it just seems like they're very much like equal partners in this. But that is kind of like when you think about it, it's just the fact that like he's, I think in the script he was said to be 24. I don't know if they changed it for the movie because
Mhm.
I think Jack Quaid was older than that. And then she was supposed to be, I guess, like 17 or 18. So there's just like this idea that he was grooming her or something like
Yeah.
that. That's like a lot of like the criticisms, like because the same people who love Amber hate Richie. I think they call him
Hmm.
Rochi.
Hmm.
Um, but I just think he's a more interesting and entertaining killer of the two. But Eric Champion is saying let the lesbians be villains. Um, it kind of reminded me of another thing that just sort of like I feel that like if it had been developed a little bit more would have really gone a long way in making this more of like a mystery, or just sort of like keeping us guessing in a way where it wasn't sort of like obvious as to like where what direction it was heading with the killers. And
Hmm.
that's in the sense that Vince was kind of like presented as this red herring at the
Oh
beginning,
yeah.
and he Kyle Gallner of Smile, Smile 2, Red
Jennifer's
Eye,
body.
Jennifer's Body, Nightmare on Elm Street remake. He's
Mm.
like just run the gamut. There's the Strange Darling as a newer one. Love him, but he is like severely underused in this movie, and it feels like they allotted this time at the beginning. Like he's got two scenes in the movie. They've allotted this time to like set up this fact of like, oh, this is Liv's ex-boyfriend. He's a suspicious character, and then he's killed off right away. Like, why would you take the
Yeah.
time to develop this character to be nothing? And then we find out after the fact, like scenes and scenes later, that he is Stu's nephew. And that feels like a scenario where like why does Amber live in Stu's house when Stu's family is still around? It would make more sense that Vince lived in Stu's house because that is his mother's parents' house. Like
Yeah.
he would be the person that lived there, like or whatever. And he could have been the one to throw the party at the end. And like, let's just pretend because I think that Liv is like the most pointless character in this entire franchise.
She's yeah.
Let's just imagine that Liv is not in the equation. What if like Vince was Amber's ex? And then that feels like there's more of like there's more consistency in terms of like we've got uh Richie, they're planning to frame Sam, um, and then we've got who's Billy Loomis's daughter, and then we have Vince, who's Stu Macher's nephew. Why are we not framing him? Why are we not framing two people anyway? Because if this is the thing that they're doing, they're really trying to homage the past and sort of like this is a Billy and Stu thing. That would naturally just be the thing. It's just like you're getting someone who's creating Billy and someone who's recreating Stu. And I think like the biggest place where they fuck this up is in the hospital scene because in that interaction their Ghostface attacks Sam and Dewey and Tara and Richie and all that. But then the police show up afterwards and they're talking to the police for hours. They're giving their report.
Hmm.
So in whatever the report is, they're saying that Ghostface and Sam are in the same place at the same time. So that completely like it makes Swiss cheese of their plan at the end that we're planning to frame Sam because then like any competent police authority is going to be like, well, we have a statement here that says that Sam was present, so that means that we're looking for another killer if Sam is also the killer.
Yeah.
And then when you
Yes.
factor in the fact like Sydney not calling the police and just going in there, it's just like nothing bad. There's no tension. You've sucked all the tension out of this movie by
But
characters being stupid and the script being what it is.
well, didn't they try to like kind of set that scene up in the hospital where you're not supposed to know if that really happened or not? Like, was that just in Sam's mind? Because they're trying to like set her up as being kind of like she's seeing her dad in the mirror,
Yeah.
and then like and then this like crazy scene in the hospital, which I just don't. I always skip that scene because I don't like the Billy flashbacks, and I also don't like that scene in the hospital because it's just kind of like how did the killer like knock like how would I get it that the killer maybe got lucky and wasn't seen
Yeah.
by anybody, but like that was a huge risk that they were taking. Like that
Yeah.
putting the costume on in a busy hospital. Um,
Well, I mean, like the killer has always kind of taken risks like that in all of these movies. But like I'm not talking about that scene. I'm talking about the scene where Dewey is killed
oh,
because Richie is one of the like when Gail comes up and finds out that Dewey is dead, we can see Richie and Sam talking to the police. So like Richie's police report would be like, yeah, this is what happened. Sam is standing right there with him. Like
mm,
all of their stories and Tara's is going to be consistent with what happened. So it's like how are
hmm
you
hmm
framing Sam as like the Ghostface killer when you've also given a police report saying that Sam was with me when this Ghostface attacked? Like it's just,
true.
you
It
know,
would, yeah,
I
just
don't blame Richie for being stupid. I blame the script for being stupid in this case because it's like all of that. Like I know that like most like general audiences will watch a movie and be like, you're overthinking it, sort of thing. But with something like that is a make or break it thing. Like that will completely take you out of a movie when you really start to think of the logic. And for the most part, like the Wes Craven movies are very logical. I think that there's some shaky things in Scream 3, but for
hmm
the first two movies, it's solid. So it's really
yeah.
disappointing that, we come to this far in the franchise and we're just sort of like, we're not thinking about stuff like that when we're writing a script.
That's like I was watching I think I have to sneeze. Hold
Let it out.
on.
Here, I'll read a,
Now that I've acknowledged the sneeze, it will never come.
yeah. Well, let me read Mr.
Yeah.
K. Churn's. If Liv was knocked off earlier and her body hidden, Vince could have showed up at the party looking for her. And that's actually a really good point. Like if it was Liv who was killed instead of Vince, like in the like after the bar scene, that that actually would have had more cause and effect going into the rest of the movie.
That's actually what I wanted to touch on was the Vince thing because like, was Vince always written in the script to just be that small of a character or like because I think I remember them saying that they like added Kyle Gallner in like last minute, or like that they kind of wanted to include him in this movie. So like
Hmm.
did they write Vince so that they could have Kyle Gallner in this movie, or did they have a small part and they're like, oh, perfect, we can put you in, Kyle? Like, was it kind of like, because I'm like,
So
I could,
in
it's giving the one that is I just
Yeah,
said. It kind of seems like they were like, oh, let's just like fit Kyle into this movie somehow. Because like,
yeah,
why would they write his character so poorly when they could have used Vince as a bigger character, a bigger
yeah.
role?
I know that Kyle auditioned for Richie,
Hmm.
and he might have been like one of the finalists for that, and then they obviously went with Jack Quaid, and I think that they made the right choice with that because I can't see anyone else other than Jack Quaid playing that role. I think that like Kyle Gallen, I mean, that's not to say that he's wouldn't bring that, like he's a very versatile actor, but it just seemed like a thing where it's like here's a consolation prize. The role was already in the script, and in the it's not in the bar parking lot where he's killed. I think it's like it takes place on the road. Like he leaves the bar and he's driving, and somehow the killer has, you know, hopped on, like I think he had a truck rather than, what he has in
Mm.
the movie. So it's just sort of like the killer hitched a ride on the back, and then when he stopped the car for whatever reason, I don't know, it was like a flat tire, he got out and was killed there.
Mm.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think I just agree with what you said. Like they could have totally used Vince in a much better way in this movie.
Yeah.
And and so to me it just kind of gave the vibe as like Kyle wasn't available. Like he was like too busy. He it almost gave like a vibe like how um Matthew Lillard like was available to be an extra in Scream 2. Like that's kind of like
Mm.
how it feels like that like Kyle
Kyle
just
Gallner's
like
whole
he was
role is just like
yeah, it
the
was whole he was
equivalent.
available, he was on set and they're like, "Hey, can you stand up against this car and pretend that you're hanging out at a young girl's high school while all her friends can see you
Yeah.
and you're just there like watching her." Like
What I
I
think
don't
is
know.
funny is that Kyle Gallner is also like I'm not sure like what his age is supposed to be in this movie. Kyle Gallner is he actually has the same birthday as me.
He's 40.
Um, he-
And that's
I'm
what
I'm
he's
40. He's 39 right now because he was born in 86.
okay, he's
But
39 because
like
I'm like he
but
looks like an adult.
yeah, but in this movie, like it's like he's Leslie Macher's son. So I don't know if like Leslie Macher is supposed to be older or younger than Stu or what the case is, but it's very confusing. It's just like how old is he? Is he playing younger? Is that the case here? But it's just one of those things that there are characters in this movie that they talk about that are more interesting than the characters who are in this movie because like I want to meet Leslie Mocker. I want to have known more about her. I
Mm.
want to have known more about the mother, like Sam and Tara's mother. She
Horrible
was
mom.
actually
Worst mom of the year.
yeah, I think that more so in Scream 6, but in the script, the mom actually does appear. And she's in two scenes, I think. She's in the bar. So this would have happened like after Tara is attacked and the
Hmm.
and the group goes to the bar and they see her, like the mom just like getting drunk and hitting on guys at the bar and just being like, God, she's such a wreck or whatever. And then there's a scene where Sam goes back to her childhood home, and the mom is coming home in a cab and she gets out and she's just wasted and they're having a fight on the front lawn. And it was again like really like embarrassing, really forced dialogue, and it's no wonder that it was cut, but it still makes me think of like this is a character who had a connection with Billy Loomis. That's something I want to know more about than
Yeah.
than a character like Liv, who we're gonna keep around.
Like I would rather like the mom be in this movie and tell Tara that Sam's father was Billy Loomis. I don't know. I just, like that would have been
Yeah.
a better expository scene than like
Yeah.
this is what happened to me that day.
How do
And
you feel? And I'm asking everyone in the chat too. And even if you're watching or this after the fact, like comment in the YouTube. How do we feel about I guess he's not a ghost, but it's just sort of like a figment in Sam's mind of Billy Loomis, this apparition, if you will.
total dislike. I I just don't think that's like realistic at all. Like I don't think that people that even have schizophrenia like have full conversations with I mean maybe they do. I just like I don't know, but I just feel like she Did they try to de-age him? That's one thing I couldn't tell.
They
Like,
did, yeah.
okay, because it's funny because I've watched certain people's reactions to this movie and they're like, "Oh wow, I'm surprised they didn't de-age him at all." But I'm like, I think they did. I just don't think that he looks young. I don't think he looks like he did in the first one. He
Yeah. I
just
mean,
doesn't look wrinkly.
de-aging is, it's tricky. There's that movie with Will Smith called Gemini Man,
Hmm.
which there was like, some of it looked okay, but I remember there was like full on scenes where it's just like, oh God, that looks awful. This is like, you know, 1999 levels of CGI here.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think that it looked bad in a sense. It just like it didn't look like him, and that just might be, you know, Skeet in general, just being like, because I think that he's a lot bigger now. Like I think like he works out a lot. Whereas I feel like, back then he was like, a little bit more wiry, like his like more of a
Hmm.
slender frame.
Young.
So just like
Yeah.
he looks more of like an adult now. I mean, even though he's like 26 circa Scream, uh 1996. But
Hmm.
yeah, it just there was a lot of things that just it didn't
Even the
work to
hair
make
didn't look the
him.
same. Even his hair I felt looked a little different.
Yeah. Well,
They tried, but it didn't look the
yeah.
same to
I
me.
think that's probably why in Scream 6 they made it more of like a reflection in
Yes.
the glass rather than like a reflection in the mirror.
An
So they could like,
opaque, like an opaque
yeah.
person there. It just like and like just like, come on, Sam, you know what we gotta do. We gotta be a killer and like cut some throat. It just feels very cheese fest.
Hmm. It didn't feel like the that as well of just sort of this idea like is Sam the killer? Like they didn't
I never thought she was
capitalize on.
once.
No, yeah, but they didn't capitalize off of that. Like I
You
think
don't
that
feel
like,
that at all.
yeah, if you're going to do a thing, and this is a criticism that I mean not necessarily with Scream 3 because I don't think that the movie necessarily needed it, but if they had a kind of like a through line is like, is Sydney crazy? Because Tom Prince says like, what if Sydney's the killer? Like living like the
Hmm.
Unabomber in the woods or whatever, and you just see sort of like Sydney having like this mental unraveling. It's just like, is there a part of Sydney, especially since Roman's plan was to frame Sydney at the end of the movie? I think that it would have actually benefited to maybe have like more people questioning her throughout the movie, or even if she was questioning her own sanity at a certain point, even though I don't think I would like that as much. Because
Hmm.
I still believe in Scream 2, she's not hallucinating Ghostface on the stage. That is Mickey. But with
Yeah.
Sam, I think that like they definitely needed to have more of like this like contextualized is just like, does she trust herself? And I don't think that like we got enough of that, and I think that that actually would have really enhanced at least what direction they were going with the movie and all this. So it felt like, Billy in the backseat of the car just being like, it's time to get out there and rip some fucking throats, or whatever he's
Hmm.
saying. It just it's a little hammy.
Yeah.
It doesn't
That's
land
how
for
it
me.
felt. Yeah, it felt hammy
Yeah.
to me. It didn't feel realistic. And I know some
Hmm.
people I see in the chat liked the Billy part of this movie. That's cool. I'm glad it worked
Yeah.
for you guys. I just don't think it was, I don't know. I think that his
Yeah.
dialogue, I think it was a lot to do with the dialogue.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Yeah. I personally, I don't mind the intent. I think that like it was very effective in a sense that it surprised me. I knew that he was going to be in the movie because I think somewhere in the social media while the film was in production, it might have been Marley Shelton posted on her Instagram. She just like tagged all. She's like, "Oh, this was so much fun," and like Skeet Ulrich was there, and then everyone's just like, "Wait, what? Skeet Ulrich is in the movie?"
Uh,
So
yeah.
it wasn't that I didn't know what it was going to be in a sense, but like when it happened, it was just like, "What?" And it kind of
Mhm.
got me to lean in. Like I was very interested in this aspect. I don't think that in terms of everything that this movie does wrong, I don't think that that's the worst thing. I don't even know if I agree that it's something that they did wrong. I don't think that they executed it to the best of their capabilities, like I said, but it's not something that really bothers me.
Okay. Oh,
Well, I mean, and just to the fact that like in Scream 3, we have Sydney having a nightmare about her mother. So I mean, it's within the realm of
and
that.
that
It's
worked
not
for
a,
me. That works for
yeah.
me though, because that's like a dream and not like I I just don't believe in seeing an opaque version of someone sitting in your back seat that you're having a full-fledged conversation with. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't believe it. And then like that doesn't happen as much, and I guess it does happen once in six, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I just didn't love that.
No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
I do like her better in six though. I like Sam better in six. I will say that. She doesn't annoy me as
Yeah.
much in six.
I agree. And I would say that I liked Tara less in six.
Mm-hmm.
But because I like Jenna Ortega in this movie. I like her performance. I
Mm-hmm.
think like in terms of the opening scene, um, I'll just say for the movie in general, I don't think this has a lot of rewatchability value. Like the every
It
time I
gets worse
revisit
every
it,
time.
yeah. And I liked the opening scene a lot when I first saw it, but it's one of those opening scenes that it does feel like it's just diminishing returns because it's like we're doing the same thing over. Like this is just sort of like the first movie, every movie has like the phone call thing other than Scream 2, but whereas I feel like with Scream 3 there's the nuance of like the voice changer, you have Ghostface gaslighting Christine and Cotton and like getting them to turn on each other. That it just it I feel the stakes. Whereas I think the strongest thing about this opening scene is, well, Jenna Ortega and Roger L. Jackson is just sort of like their chemistry and like Roger really getting a chance to be more I guess like turned down rather than like the intensity because I we were talking about how in four where he was almost like Freddy Krueger-esque
Yeah.
in some of his line delivery. So here he just gets to be like that suave, normal voice on the phone and like allow that to like slowly escalate.
Well, even like the very first hello, I wrote that down in my
Mhm.
notes. Like when he calls Jenna Ortega in the beginning, he's like, hello. It's like a very it's kind of almost it almost reminded me of Chucky. Like I don't know, it reminded me of like I don't know what voice. It reminded me of something
Yeah.
like hello. And then yeah, he sounds a little slower, like the way he talks in this one.
Yeah.
Um and that was Richie on the phone with her or Amber on the phone with her.
I believe that's Richie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could say that.
And every
Yeah.
time
Calm, slow.
whenever the
Hmm.
killer calls Sam, because nobody ever calls her Samantha, but the killer is like, "Hello, Samantha," and it's
Hmm.
weird. Like when Gail pops into the movie and Sam is like introducing herself to her, she's like, I'm Samantha, Sam Carpenter." I'm like, well, what? Okay, like why was that a thing that like
Urgent.
why couldn't she just be I'm Sam Carpenter? I'm just Sam. Why should I
Yeah.
even say her name? And I also like just the Gale of it all. She's because she's like my sister and I were attacked, and Gail's like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. It's just like Gail, you don't give a shit.
I know, right? I know, that was a weird like first intro to
Yeah.
Gale, like the way she was acting in that. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
so sorry to hear that. Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
it was very like TV personality.
It's like, but they're like, she's coming out of the van. She has no idea who Sam is at this point, but she just like Gail has never been shown to like talk to civilians in a way. Like she's almost bothered by people.
Yeah.
She's and if she is like going to people, she's just like almost like cutthroat or like a shark. So it just
Yeah.
felt very weird that she sort of like goes up to Sam and she's like, "Well, what's going on here?" And then it's almost like they're exchanging this whole thing, and she's like, "Oh, the sheriff died. She didn't like me very much. Well, she didn't like me very
Like
much
me either.
either." And
Yeah,
it's just
it's for
like,
the audience.
my name is Gail Riley. Gail, and excuse me.
Weathers. Yeah.
Yeah, Weathers
Yeah.
Riley, like Sam, Samantha, like what? Okay. Again, more dialogue that just felt very forced. It's these like inauthentic interactions that are happening throughout the movie.
Yeah, no, I
Mhm.
totally agree. And I don't know if it's the same hospital as in the fourth one, but I'm like, it is the most negligent hospital in the entire world. Like for this to be able to
Mhm.
happen twice, where there's like Jill in Scream 4, and then this whole sequence. I'm like, what a
Yeah.
terrible, literal, terrible hospital.
I know that it's like it sounds like we've been so negative about this movie,
That's
But
because
it's
I don't like
like, but
this movie.
I'm just being authentic. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to be a
I know
hater.
it sounds like I don't like this movie, but it's only because I don't like it.
It's only because like yeah. Well, I mean, I've heard a thing that's just like there are no bad Scream movies, but like yeah,
Well,
I'm
I
like,
said that last
well,
time. I think I said that.
yeah,
But well, it's because I am one of those people that when this movie came out, I loved it. I remember
I
being like, wow,
agree.
this and they did a really good job when you hear in the marketing over and over again, like this is the closest one to the original. Like this is the closest. I was saying that. I was like, oh, this is like the closest one to the original because oh, they built a set of Stu's house. So it's definitely like the original. And like
Hmm.
oh, and they say Wes's name every 5 minutes. So it's just like the original
It's
because it makes you think of the director of the original. So like
yeah,
so I bought into it, but I remember when I watched it being really sad that there was no real chase scenes, but I kind of like ignored that and I was like, okay, whatever. And then not really buying the killer reveal with Amber, I felt like she was like um not a real actress. I don't know, I just didn't
yeah,
feel real to me with her character. So I just like and I kind of ignored those things. Um but it's one of those things like you say upon rewatch, you can't
yeah.
ignore them. So
Amethyst is calling me out here. I gotta say,
oh.
you've said there are no bad Scream movies in the past too, Zach. LOL.
Oh, thank you,
Absolutely.
Amethyst.
But I did I say that after Scream 6 was released? See, I don't know. I know that like I had a lot more trepidations with not trepidations, but just like misgivings with with 6 after that came out than I did this movie. And I did really like this one, and I think that at the time my ranking was like 1, 2, 5,
Oh my God.
3, 4, or something like that. Um, so I mean, like that's changed, but I mean that's also 4 years ago at this point.
Yes.
Hard to believe because it doesn't feel that long ago. But yeah, this is it's because of the rewatchability of this. I don't think that I prefer this over 6. I think that it's a more competent story, even though there's I've just spent all this time talking about all the holes and there's more to cover. But it is a less exciting movie. I think that like you look at the 6 movie and there's all these like bombastic set pieces, and in this
Yes.
one you really don't have anything, and like the hospital is kind of like the set piece, and we spend so much bloody time there, and I just like like you mentioned it, like I can't wait to get out of there. Like whenever we go there, it
It's
feels
a
like we're
slow scene. Like, it's slowly
but
happening. Like
every hospital scene is slow in this movie because it's like you have the
mm,
first one where well, not the first one, but like when um Judy's there and she's sort of like interrogating them like after Sam's been attacked. And then it's like, step out into the hallway, Sam, let's have a conversation. Yada, yada,
hmm
yada. By the way, Judy Hicks, we needed more of her in the movie because she was bringing tension. Like I felt like with her
Yeah.
character, I felt like there was a sliver of like who she was from 4, but I did feel like 11 years later, and especially with her as a sheriff now, I'm like, I can see this evolution. I can see her kind of turning
Yeah.
into this person from what she was in 4. But yeah, we're it's like step out into the hallway, and then like her going back in the room and being like, "Can I talk to my sister in private?" And now we're going back into the hallway, and
hmm
Richie's out there, and it's just like yada yada yada, and it just feels like it just goes on, and then yeah, we
Yeah.
have the whole thing with like Dewey's death and like Tara in the wheelchair, and that goes on for a long time, and then like just after that of Sam and Tara just sort of being like, yeah, let's get the fuck out of town and all
Oh
this, and
yeah,
just yeah.
in the lobby. Yeah, that whole scene.
Yeah, I feel like we spend
Um,
like half an hour of the movie in the hospital.
I felt I one thing I forgot to mention is like the timing, like the like what time is it like in this movie? Because there's like the whole scene where like Sam and Tara had that confrontation in the hospital, and then Sam leaves the hotel room, and Richie's there, and she's like, "Did you hear all that?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Are you gonna stay or leave?" With that whole conversation,
Yeah.
and then I think they go, and then like, well, let's find an expert, and so they go to Dewey's house, and so I think that that's a new day,
Yes.
which they don't establish, but that's a new day. And looking at Dewey's clock on the wall, it says 7 o'clock, so I was like, 7 o'clock. I was like, there's no way that they'd go to his house at 7 a.m. I was like,
Yeah.
so it must be 7 p.m. But then so much happens after that. So
Yeah, no,
like I'm like,
it's
so
definitely the
no,
morning. Yeah.
so it's definitely morning. So like I was like, either he has a wrong clock or they're just assholes for showing up at 7 a.m. And it's true, like he's watching Gale on the news, so it probably
Yeah.
is 7 a.m. Like it's a morning show. So like it's
Yeah.
just hilarious that they said like, let's get ready and let's leave our house at 6:30 so we can go find this guy. I don't know how they found his address.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, there's
yeah.
so like because they're staying at a motel, but we only see the motel like when Richie's there watching YouTube and eating
Hmm.
pizza. But they're at the hospital the rest of the time. But there is a deleted scene, or a couple actually, where the first one is Dewey shows up at the bar. He's first introduced when Vince comes out, and there's actually like a fight that happens between Vince and Dewey, and they're all kicked out of the bar. And
Mm.
then Vince is killed, and Dewey is brought in to the station by Judy, and she's sort of like interrogating him, but then she's like, I want to bring you back. Like, can you like come and work with me to figure this out? And he's kind of like, no. But it was nice to see
Mm.
like a scene between them, and they like cut that
Yeah.
out entirely, which was just like bullshit in my opinion. Like it wasn't a great scene by any stretch of the imagination, but it was still like you have these pre-established characters who have history. I'm more interested in seeing what's going on with them than
Yeah.
like forcing these new interactions that you're not even totally sure about. So I think that where I get kind of mixed up, where time just sort of like speeds up is okay, let's just say that like night one, Tara is attacked. And then the
Yes.
next day, Sam and Richie come to Woodsboro and they drive there and go visit Tara in the hospital. Then the kids are at the bar later that night. Vince is killed. And then Sam is attacked at the hospital. And then she's like, well, we need to go talk to an expert. So that's the next morning they go to Dewey.
Hmm.
And first he's like, I'm not going to help you. So then they decide they're going to go to the twins' house and assemble all of the players. And that's when Dewey shows up. And then Sam just abandons them there, like leaves Dewey, even though like he's agreed to help. And she's just driving around, whatever. And then I guess at some point, Wes comes home or whatever, and then that whole thing happens, and like Wes and
And they
Judy are
have
killed.
and like they're ordering sushi. So I'm like, what time is it that they're
It's
having
din Yeah,
sushi?
it's probably
So is it
dinner.
okay?
Yeah.
At
And
this point,
then
it's dinner time. Okay.
yeah, and then like all the police kind of like come to the house. And that's where like Sam is outside or whatever. She's followed the sirens and she finds out well, she sees the one deputy who's supposed to be watching Tara and he's there. And she's like, who's watching my sister? So
Yeah.
she goes to the hospital with Dewey and suddenly it's night. It's like
No,
it's just
not it's
like
not though. It's not nighttime because then when is it nighttime though?
it is as they're driving because
Oh,
it
the
like
sun's
cuts
going
to
down.
the
It's like
sun is
getting
going
dark.
down, but
Yes.
by the time like she's driving in the car and Sam is trying to call Richie's phone, it is night. And Dewey's like cutting through traffic. So it's just like how big is Woodsboro that it's like the sun is already set from the point of view like going from Judy's house to the hospital. And
Hmm.
then everything happens at the hospital, and then the next scene is the next morning because like that's when like the sun is coming up as Gale gets there.
Yes.
And then
Okay.
everything happens at the hospital, and then the sun is going down. And then that's like the night of the party. And I
Oh
guess like at
wait,
this,
so were they at the hospital all day then? Like was like when because isn't the sun going
yeah.
down? Isn't the sun going down when like Samantha's getting in the car and they're like and driving away? Yeah. So like
Yeah. No, it's like
so
an entire
Gail.
24-hour period.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think it's
Wow.
because they needed to somehow like make it make sense that like Wes was killed, and then they were gonna like plan this party to like honor Wes.
True. It
Like
can't be the
because
same
it
night.
couldn't have been the same night, so they're just like, well, that's a little hasty, so we got to do it here. But it just
Even the
like
next night is a little hasty, but
well, all of it
you
is
know.
just
Yeah.
ridiculous. But yeah, there's all that. I it's whereas I look at the because we talked about this with Scream 4 where I was saying that how it felt like the day after all this stuff happened where like Olivia and Rebecca are killed, like Rebecca's killed at the
Mhm.
hospital, and then the next day they go to the cinema club and it's like one scene that lasts for like a few minutes and then it's nighttime again. and I compared it to like Screams 1 and 2, where like that day, like in the chronology of things, it's like there it just sort of like the movie languishes there for a bit, which I feel is like good because it's just sort of like building up suspense. Like we're figuring out who's still alive, who's a suspect, where is everyone. We're not rushing through anything,
Mhm.
and then we get to like the party that night, or like the in Scream 2, like whatever they're doing, that like they're taking them to the safe house that night. So I feel like the pacing has just always been like they always try to do these new things, or just like in spite of itself to maybe try to be different, but it always feels like it's the wrong pacing. Like it just like really it makes it feel like it's too much time is passing and too quickly.
Yes. No, I do agree.
Mm.
And I know we've touched on this before, but I don't like how like in this movie they keep talking about like, so who's a suspect? Are we suspects? Like you're a suspect? Like they do it like so quickly, and Chad even has a line
Mhm.
where when they're I think they're at his house when they're watching, and they have that BTS shot of Billy Loomis, like
Yeah,
that on the
on the
TV, which
Blu-ray, yeah.
yeah, which they should not have that image of him. But
Yeah.
he says to Sam, he's like, "So so you're the daughter of a serial killer, and we're what? The suspects?" Like I don't know, it's he says something along those lines. I wrote it down somewhere.
Yeah.
But I'm like, who would talk like that? And then like because Mindy's like, and you're a suspect and I'm a suspect. I know we've talked
He's
about this before bothering us.
making a requel or a
But I feel like
legacy-quel.
that doesn't happen in the original. Like Tatum's never like said like our friends like we can't trust them. Like I don't know. They're never accusing each other, and
Hmm.
I don't know. So
It's,
I just
I
feel like
mean,
it felt silly.
at the water fountain in the original, there's like
There's
it's like, where
banter.
were you? No, but it
Yeah,
feels, that banter feels like realistic. It's like authentic banter that like friends who aren't, maybe don't really like each other as friends, but they're hanging out, will say to each other. And Stu just being like, I didn't kill anyone. Like, nobody said you did. And yada, 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 which actually just works because it's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, don't
yeah.
blow this for us.
Hmm.
And in Scream 2, like, what I liked is just like, you have Randy and Dewey coming together and having a private conversation where they're talking shit about everyone, because that's what you do. If you talk shit about people, you don't talk. I mean, if you're talking shit about people to their face, good for you. You're probably not a very popular person. And I don't know if Mindy is a very
You're
popular
not gonna say,
person
I
because of
think you might
that.
be one of the killers.
But like that's not productive for you
Yeah.
to do that. Like you want to like find someone that you trust and have
Hmm.
that conversation with them. And this was the one that really introduced this aspect of like it had always existed before, but it was done in a way that was like very flippant, like in Scream 3, when the stab cast is just like, it could be you or you, sort of thing. And it was
Yeah.
just like, nah. But here they really kind of like, it became a thing. And then of course they had to repeat that for Scream 6, where it's just like,
Yeah.
well, you could be the killer, or this is why it's you, and et cetera and so forth. And then I always get very annoyed by this part, because like Mindy is just like, I think it's very obvious who the killer is at this point. And I'm thinking like, no, it's not, in terms of whatever this bullshit conversation is. And then Sam's like, who? And she's just like, you. And everyone's like, that actually makes a lot of sense. Even Liv, who's just
Yeah.
like, you don't even know what the fuck is going on here.
You
She's
have
like,
no idea,
yeah,
Liv.
yeah, yeah. Shut
Liv,
up, Liv.
you're last on the call sheet. You're a local hire. And and yeah.
Ouch.
Um
I think,
no,
okay, so
she's
with,
giving last on the call sheet major vibes. Like
yeah,
I was watching and she was very jarring. She stood out to me a lot in this free watch. She has a great like hooded like a great like brow bone. So when she has this like dead stare that she can do with her
yeah.
eyes because like her brow bone is really heavy. But
Hmm.
like her acting was horrible. And like I feel bad because I could almost feel the directors coaching her on set, like being like, all right, so like you're gonna like interrogate, you're gonna come into Mindy like strong in this scene. You're gonna come on really strong and be angry, kind of
Yeah.
spooky. Like you're like, are you the killer or not? Like kind of act crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
well,
could
I mean,
just sort of think,
I don't always believe that like acting, like bad acting only goes so far. I think that it's just sort of like a director can still get a performance out of a person, or just like to the best of their ability. With Liv, it just feels like she's just such an afterthought in this. Like there's really no purpose to her. And we especially like it's almost like she's just there to get shot. Like it was just like this shocking moment
Mm.
for Amber's reveal. Um,
That part did scare me in the
but
movie theater.
even
That part did scare me.
oh, it's
When
I
she
thought
got
it was
shot in
just
the
the
head, it was that jump scare. I was like, like
yeah.
it did actually get me.
Yeah. It's I mean it's startling. I wouldn't say scary, but I it always bothers me because obviously I'm such a stickler for continuity.
Hmm.
Because as soon as that happens, and this is obviously a thing where like, okay, we can't pay an actor. Like, there's no point in like paying an actor to have her there for like however many days we're doing where she's not doing anything. So the scene carries on for the rest of the movie, and Liv is not there. There's not even like a body on the
Well,
floor
they
of
should have a
like,
body double. They should have a total
yeah.
body double there.
There's no
A
body double
stand-in.
because but we see
Hmm.
that spot. We see because it's like we can see it through the kitchen door. But it's not just that. Like the pictures, the paintings on the wall behind her were like splattered in her brains. That's not even there. The continuity of that
Yeah.
is gone. And I've heard people they like overseas when this movie was released, they were saying like Liv died. Like I think that that scene might have been cut out of versions, unless that's people who are just like completely
Not
like
paying
out
attention.
to lunch when they're watching the
Yeah.
movie. But
Because that's how Amber reveals herself.
mhm.
So how would that happen
Yeah,
otherwise?
I have no idea unless she just sort of like pulls out the gun and it's like a really choppy
Welcome to Act
edit.
3 for no
Yeah.
reason.
So who knows? But I heard that from like multiple comments of that online, so I don't know. But in that that does would make me question like, oh well, was she not supposed to be there? Did they add that in after, and that's why there's no body or blood spatter on the wall
Maybe.
after that? But it is very jarring, and it just like it's like okay, this was sloppy because that is something that's noticeable for sure.
Amethyst's comment is funny. She was related to the Mackenzies, obviously a central character.
The Mackenzies down the street. Yeah.
She's related to the Mackenzies.
Yeah. Oh, also
Um,
the so the stat this is I'm just parading through like all the fucking mistakes in this movie.
yeah.
The stab of it all, which I that was the first thing because like obviously if you're just a casual viewer of this franchise, like something like that is not going to stick out to you. But this was like, the first 5 minutes into the movie and Tara's on the phone with Ghostface and Ghostface is saying Sidney Prescott was a character in every movie except for the last one. And it's just like,
Mm,
no, this is like categorically incorrect. I mean, and this is like egregiously incorrect because in Scream 4, um, Jenny and Marnie are just like, well, the first three have to do with Sidney Prescott,
yeah,
but
legally.
but then she sued and they started making shit up. But like, but
Hmm.
regardless of that, like, let's just pretend that the legal system is a thing where you can't just take someone's someone's personality rights and start making fake stories because that is completely illegal. But in the deleted scene, Kirby even says like it just like Sydney hasn't been in the franchise since Scream 3. And I would think that like regardless of like if you're making a new Scream movie, it's like television where there's like a series Bible that everyone has that like every new writer that comes in, if you're writing an episode of a TV show, you like adhere to this. You have to look and be like, okay, this is what the continuity is here.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. So you'd think that like you have that for a film series as well. And something like that like like even if you're a fan in passing, like it's just such an obvious thing, but they do that here. And like right away it's like, okay, I'm already taken out of the movie because I'm already like starting to notice things that I'm criticizing. And I think
Hmm.
that the in the scene in question of like all the characters sitting around and Wes being like, my mom was a character in one of those movies. And it's just like, well, which one? Because there was seven
Why
and
would she
Stab.
have been if Sydney's
Yeah.
not in? Yeah.
Well, but like Scream 4, there was already the seven movies, and then it's established here that this is the eighth movie.
Yes.
And this is the
Hmm.
eighth movie that has nothing to do with any of the characters. So the only movie that Judy can technically be a character in is Stab 8, but it has nothing to do
Yeah.
with it. And even then, it's just sort of
7.5.
like but even then, it's just like there was never a movie that was based off of Scream 4, unlike Jill and Charlie. So that would be another case of them now taking an officer of the law and putting them into a scenario and rewriting a whole thing. Like Judy would sue the shit out of them. This is
Yeah.
it just it does not exist. So like things like that, uh, unfortunately, just it made it really hard for me to
Yeah.
watch this.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
there's things that like I'm not even sure if they were just accidents or if they were intentional on the writer's part. Like when they leave Dewey's house and like they and Dewey slams the door on them and
Mhm.
Richie's like, wow, yeah, he's a lot nicer in the movies. So by him saying that, it's kind of like letting the audience know like, oh, he's seen the movies, even though he's
Mhm.
pretending that he hasn't. But I'm like, was that intentional or was that just a mistake on the writer's part? Like, did the writers mean to do that?
I think
Or
that
like
was
did
intentional.
Okay, because I mean that's good.
Yeah.
I hope it was because that's really good if it was intentional. Because if not, if they just wrote that as it was an accident and it just happened to work out, then I don't know. But I could see that being an accident. But
Davy B. Jones is saying, so the Stab franchise was changed for for the first three mirroring the Star Wars original trilogy. Scream 5 is their version of Episode 7, and Stab 8 became The Last Jedi. Also, Ryan Johnson really should have been given Stab 9 instead, but I guess the screenwriters gave him 8 to make the analogy they're trying to make more explicit and obvious. But the commentary doesn't fully
mm,
work because Ryan Johnson is the last director I would expect to make a bad Scream slash Stab movie. Murder mysteries are his bread and butter. Because yeah, he does the Knives Out stuff. That's what Gleb
yes,
says. He's like, that's the Knives Out guy.
yep,
But I think it's also funny that like Mindy is saying, no, like the Stab movies are like meta whodunit slashers, and it's just like actually they're not. Like this was a true crime novel that was
hmm,
adapted for the screen. It was never even a murder mystery. Tori
yeah,
Spelling even says in her interview with Nancy O'Dell, well, I play a girl whose boyfriend murdered my mother, and then a year later he tries to murder me. So it's just like
yes.
if that's the case, like did Tori Spelling just spoil the whole premise of the movie? It's
It
like
almost
they're
feels like a Lifetime movie. Like it almost feels like a Lifetime.
absolutely
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
somehow got a theatrical release. And like but
Yes.
like that's the thing. It's just like what they approached the material in I mean this was done in Scream 4 first, so I won't completely put this on Scream 5 because they had a whole thing where you know there's the Stabathon and these kids were obsessed with it. But like the whole idea that Stab as a franchise is it like the equivalent of Scream of like what Scream is to us is just
Yeah.
kind of nonsense.
Yeah. Not at all. Not at all. Maybe
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of like maybe like Urban Legend Final Cut. Or no, I'm trying to think of like I don't know something that's like a horror movie but not as good. Like
Mhm.
Urban Legend Bloody Mary. Like,
Which I've
um,
never seen.
oh my God, that
Yeah.
one I used to be obsessed with that movie because like it had some pretty fun deaths in it. But
Hmm.
I think we should watch it then if you've never seen it.
Maybe I mean we did do the crappy third. I know what you did last summer. That
True.
was the straight to video one. So may as well complete the trilogy. I actually
Crappy
I,
third trilogy straight to
I
video.
like because we covered Urban Legends Final Cut a while back. That movie's kind of grown on me. Like it is not good, and there's so many issues with it. But I would much rather watch that than Screams 5 and 6.
I remember watching it back in the day. Like I remember growing up, I would hang out with my best friend every weekend, and Friday
Hmm.
nights we'd go to Hollywood Video or Blockbuster, and we'd rent like we'd go up and down the horror movie aisles, and we would just like judge it off the cover, and so we'd get
Yeah,
lots of like low budget like or B grade horror movies. We actually loved those because they were so funny,
yeah.
and yeah, I remember when we were so excited for that movie for Final Cut, Urban Legend Final Cut, and I just remember it being like so let down that it had nothing to do with the first movie. Like it was just completely different. Like
Yeah.
until you see Rebecca Gayheart at the end. But yeah, I remember like
Mm.
being
I
so
yeah,
it had a whole different tone too. The tone was just different. So I
mhm.
was a little
Yeah.
bummed by that.
I hated it when I first saw it, but like I don't know, it was like
It's grown.
the last like when we covered it for the podcast, I'm kind of like I hate this, but I can't stop watching it.
You're like, wait, actually, I'm
Um,
fascinated.
is there is there anything we like about this movie?
Um, I would say no. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Yeah.
Something that was funny. Do you ever watch honest trailers from Screen Junkies?
Yeah, from time to
So
time.
they did one on this movie
Hmm.
and it was funny because it was like something about how Galen Sydney have been through this so many times that stomach wounds are no big deal anymore. And it shows them like get stabbed, it shows her get shot, and then like shows Amber stick her fingers into Gail's wound and she's screaming, and it's like 10 minutes later, and it shows them both like at the ambulance smiling with like blankets wrapped around.
Blankets, yeah,
Yeah, and just like
and
10
hot
minutes later.
cocoa, yeah.
Yeah, they're just like smiling, everything's fine, like it's like no big deal anymore.
Hmm.
So that was funny.
Yeah.
But no, the things I like about this movie, I do love Judy. I always like her. Marley Shelton's just great.
Hmm.
Um I do like some of the Easter eggs and that they try to incorporate, but I just think that they went overboard with it and
Yeah.
kind of made it a little bit more of a parody of itself than you know, a satire. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I would agree that I think that Marley Shelton and Dylan Minnette, I would have preferred to see a lot more of them as characters throughout this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do really like Mason Gooding. And I think like he's probably one of the things that or one of the people, I should rather, characters that I'm glad that like I'd say he improves in the next movie
Yeah.
as well. It is, still kind of silly with him, of
That
just
he
what they're
doesn't
doing, but
die.
well, just sort of like the way that the characters are written and the dialogue is written and all that stuff. Um, and
Because
then like
I do think it's weird that like Dewey obviously survived multiple movies, but like he wasn't stabbed that many times. Like I feel like
mhm,
the leg wound alone on Chad looked like he was gonna bleed to death from that. Like maybe it hit an artery or
yeah,
something. Never mind like viciously being stabbed a bunch of times in the vital lung area.
yeah, it was a lot. Also, Amethyst is reminding us Heather Matarazzo cameo, so returning from three, because obviously she is the mother of
Yes.
the twins, and yeah, it was fun to see her again, but it just that just felt like another like Easter egg sort of thing. It didn't feel like, it was neither here nor there. I actually feel that like if you could probably make Chad and Mindy their completely own characters, like not connected to the Meeks, and
Hmm.
it would feel exactly the same. I wouldn't,
Totally.
because I forget that they're Randy's niece and
Yeah.
nephew. It's never
Yeah.
something that's like
Well, they
ever,
look nothing like him. So it's like, and
yeah.
it's very, I think because Chad's an athlete, like he's completely different from Randy. So like
Hmm.
maybe Mindy a little bit, but like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that like Mindy like probably takes after Randy more, and Chad takes after Dewey
Mm,
more so. Um, but yeah, like I and the original three, I won't be sad for seeing them come back, even if I feel like Gail's kind of like weird when she comes out and just like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Uh,
well, I'm excited just for whatever they I don't know. I'm
yeah.
so hopeful for it, and I do love that we see her as like a talk show host. And I liked that what you said on your live about how maybe like because she says the same thing that the new Ghostface says to Sydney about it's been 30 years
Oh,
since.
so like what if Gail is the
So
killer?
says or well, no, I don't. I hope that does not happen.
Yeah.
I know that you're okay. Like, you might be okay with that. I think that would just I don't think that anyone would just become a killer later in life. I just don't
Yeah.
think that that's so. But I like the idea that maybe like she says it first and then Ghostface quotes her
Maybe.
afterwards.
Yeah.
That will make more sense for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see what's happening because like I guess the characters who are returning confirmed, at least of the living,
Hmm.
are Sydney Gale, Chad Mindy, and then we know that Stu, Roman, and Dewey
Yeah.
are, or at least like the Matthew, Scott, and David are coming back.
What if the killer is like Principal Hembry's son, grown up? He was just a kid back in the day, and now he's
Hmm.
grown up, and he's so pissed off.
Then nobody ever talks about Principal
No one
Himbry.
brings him up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And my dad was a
Well,
great principal.
they've always talked about like not they, but just like fans have always conjectured, what if the killer is a relative of a past victim? Because we've done the like relatives of the
Cece's dad.
well, no, I just think that that would just be as derivative as if it
Yes,
was
of
the
course.
the the killers, but I don't know. I just yeah, we're gonna see it soon.
Yep.
That's all I'll
Yes,
say.
we will.
But um, I think like just in terms of things that like I work well for me in this movie is the Nev Campbell of it all because I do feel very much like when she shows up, especially compared to like Halloween 2018 that had come out several years earlier, I felt that they did a much better job connecting that character and just bringing back who she truly was,
Hmm.
um, and it feeling like an authentic experience. And even if it was like very brief, the time that we spent with her, um, as a fan of the character in the franchise, it felt like a nice little like check-in with them because I think one of the things that doesn't work with four is how we're just sort of left like the three of them are like in limbo in a way. It's just sort of
Mm-hmm.
like what happens now? Like I'm sure everything will be fine, but it also felt like kind of like imagine that like Scream rather than being a film franchise, it's just a long-running television series. And like the final episode ever, the series finale, the characters are just
Mm-hmm.
sort of like left there, like on this hospital floor, being like, "We need a doctor," and then it's just like,
Doctor in
well,
here.
yeah, like you want like a nice emotional send-off for
A
them, whatever
Scream
they
3
do. And
ending.
yeah, we didn't get that in four, and I felt like at least with five, with Sydney, even though she's like sitting there with the blankets, the
Yeah.
magical blankets healing her wounds, um, that at least I know everything's gonna be okay with them, and I can rest easy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I'm looking forward to it. Scream
but uh,
7.
but having said that, I think we should get to
Ah,
the cherry picker.
It's not like we kill people on purpose.
All right, so last week we asked you who deserves to die the most in Scriptorum. I nominated Jill Roberts. Tim, you nominated Kate Roberts across Patreon, Instagram, and
I wonder who
YouTube.
won.
603 for Jill Roberts versus 214 for Kate
I like that
Roberts.
I at least got 200. That's amazing.
That's a
That
lot
many
of,
people, that's a lot of
yeah,
people that think that her mother deserved to die more
yeah.
than she did. I think that's hilarious.
That's also just a lot of votes in general. That's like over 800. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was a big turnout. Actually, a lot of people tuned into the Scream 4 episode, like more than the Scream 2 and 3 episode, and like just
Wow.
probably
Well,
about the
Scream
same
4
as
was
the Scream
great.
1.
I don't know. I think that was a good episode. We did a good job. That was a good one.
I think every episode is a good
Yeah. That
episode,
was that was
but
like really good.
let's see what the good folks are saying. Michael Diamond, Jill is my favorite killer reveal, so I have to go with Kate. Kate was cringe as fuck. No wonder
Mm-hmm.
Jill turned out so jealous and envious. Nobody asks about my scars. Amethyst Frost. Nobody cares about Kate's scars, including me. They basically watered down her role to nothing, when in the original scripts and even the filmed deleted scenes, it was much more clear she was a drunk who sleeps around. Jill scalping herself, running into the wall, and jumping through the coffee table is some of the funniest material in the franchise, so I'm definitely not killing her over the cameo appearance that is her mother. Sid barely even cared when she died. Grant Dempsey, Kate belongs in outer space aboard the Galactica. I vote her off the island that we call Earth. Jackie Simmons, Kate's rivalry with both her niece and her dead sister is petty and
Yeah.
distasteful. No one asks about your scars, Kate, because you have none. Also, she's the one parent we see during the course of the killings, and she never seems remotely concerned with Jill's safety, which in hindsight doesn't matter, but still, what a useless character.
She's taking sleeping pills, remember?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been more funny if like we found out that Jill had drugged her, right?
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirsten Watkins, I just thought Emma was cringy as Jill. She just couldn't pull it off. Amanda Collins Shaw, my unfounded but deep dislike for Emma Roberts makes this an easy one. Help yourself, film busy. Oh, help yourself, I'm busy. I'm busy. I know Kate had a scene where she basically told Sydney that she lost her sister. Wish they would have left it in. I mean, they could have had it where Sydney and her have a heart to heart, and she admits that Maureen loved Sydney, but she was selfish. How Kate is the same way, something a bit more emotional. Rechen, they had gold with Mary McDonnell and did dirt with it. A mother and daughter Ghostface would have been totally mind-blowing. Jill doing the dirty work with her mom calling the shots. Whale Wolf, this reporter gives off such unlikable energy. Rose isn't crazy, and the way people tried to paint her that way is insane. She is smart and very in touch. I am very lost on the context of that one. Any
Yeah.
any idea? No.
No, it went over my head.
Stephanie Eileen, Jill was a fun killer. Her mom was boring. Kill off Kate. Peculiar chap. I pity voted on Kate so that she'll finally have the attention that she's craving for. Scream ONW. Sorry, Scriforum ONW. Jill is too hot and iconic. I don't want any dead killers to actually come back, but if Stu is still alive, they might as well bring Jill back so she can have a Hannibal Lecter plotline with Kirby.
Woo.
Just imagine that. Robert Holston, I kind of miss getting a Friday the 13th podcast in time for a Friday the 13th. I was really looking forward to hearing
Oh
about part
yeah.
7. Well, we're going to cover that next month because there's another Friday the 13th around the corner.
That's right.
Vixenella Pops. Jill is deaf, one of the best killer reveals in the franchise, and my third favorite Ghostface behind Billy and Stu, of course, but I'm still choosing her, besides the fact that she killed her best friends and attempted to kill her cousin. She murdered her own mother, total psycho, spent the whole film trying to be a final girl, and still couldn't make it clear. Silent Saturn going for Kate, another character they could have mined so much more from based on who they are in the lore. What a waste.
See, it seems like you won, but it seems like the people like to comment more about
The
Kate.
the
It seemed like
vocal
I would have won.
minority,
Yeah,
yeah.
the very vocal minority, because I
Yeah.
got way more comments, but you got the votes.
Yeah. Well,
But
hopefully you consider that a win.
I
I'm
do, and
gonna
I
I'm
do.
yeah. I think the last time we talked about Scream 5, I nominated Deputy Vincent, who's the one who just leaves his post or whatever.
Mm.
He's like, "Who's watching my sister?"
Oh
But
yeah.
he's boring. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna nominate Amber Freeman because fuck that bitch.
She
For
deserves
all
to
the
die the
for
most.
all the reasons in this episode, I just don't like her.
Yeah,
Not a fan. Yeah,
I totally sign off on that. Um,
yeah.
and I want to say the person I think that deserves to die the most is Samantha's mother. Um,
Ooh,
but we don't have a photo of her. So
well,
I
it's not even a
mean,
photo. It's just like the
we don't
rules.
see her in the
Yeah,
film.
she's not
So
a,
she, yeah,
yeah.
tangible person that we can see because
Hmm.
I think that she definitely deserves to.
Yeah,
But other than that, I guess Liv, because Liv is just such a
yeah,
nothing character. She's such like a nothing burger and um giving yeah, forgettable.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very
So I'm gonna
fair.
go with Liv.
You might win this one. Who's our cherry on top though?
I would have to say
Hmm.
I would think for cherry on top, I love Judy. I think she's hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, so Judy or Stephanie, Sydney, or Stephanie,
I would go for Sydney myself.
Sydney. Yeah, just
Yeah.
because she is the stronger one. Um, I do love Judy though, and I did want to call this out when when she says that she prefers animated films and musicals.
Hmm.
Um, I love that when the killer asks her, "Well, have you ever seen the movie Psycho?" and it cuts to the shower scene. I
Hmm.
wonder what she said. I wonder, I wonder if she'd been like, "No, actually, I haven't." Like,
Hmm.
I've actually never seen. I don't know what you're referencing right now.
The shower thing's been done.
Yeah,
Vertigo. Hello.
but
Yeah.
that's so true. But yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's perfect. I think Sydney is the cherry on top.
Yeah, I agree so as well. But clearly we're just a bunch of Scream 5 haters.
I know. I'm sorry,
So yeah, I'm not.
everybody. That everyone that loves this movie. Hey, I was right there with you when it first came out.
Look, we don't hate you.
You don't
We
hate
just hate the
you.
movie. I don't even hate the movie. I'm
No.
just not interested in it. Like
Yeah.
I don't feel challenged by it.
As a
Uh
casual, if I was just a casual movie watcher, I'd probably think this movie was so much fun and so great. But because
yeah.
we're obsessed with the franchise and we love
Yeah.
of it so much, we just it breaks our heart a little
We
bit.
have high standards
It's
and
like that disappointing like nephew that you kind of have, and you're just like, oh,
sure.
good kid, but
Yeah.
oof, falling apart.
Anyway, so there you have it. You can vote for Amber Freeman or Liv Mackenzie. Vote your heart, vote your conscience. The poll will be open several places. Firstly, on my Patreon. You can head over there even if you are supporting for free, which is a thing you can do. That's an extra vote you can get. But, while you're there, please consider jumping on one of the tiers and giving back a little. And, there's lots of fun benefits, as I said before, and you get to join us as we do these. And you're keeping the engine running. You're keeping the motor greased, if you
Yes.
will. But you can also head over to Instagram at the Cherry Picker Pod, so follow us there. Polls show up there, as well as YouTube. So make sure to subscribe to us. And if you would prefer to listen, the RSS feed link is in the descriptions down below. Tim, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at Tim McKay Beauty.
Biode. And my
Beauty.
main YouTube channel is Zach Cherry, ZACK space CHERRY. Retro Bitch Face is the Instagram and Letterboxd accounts, and then Zach Cherry 8 on Twitter. And next week, what are we doing?
Scream 6.
Screen Fix. Screevy, if you will. Uh,
Ghostface takes Manhattan
Ghostface in the Big Apple.
in the big Canadian apple.
The Big Apple,
The big
but
apple.
Apple.
I think of it every time I'm in a Uber and I drive by Hudson Street. I think of the opening scene, and I'm just like, "There's no way that this happened like on Hudson Street."
Where's this
Hudson,
alley? Where's this
I'm like
alleyway? Yeah.
exactly, and I'm like Hudson Street. No one would be having dinner on Hudson. It's not a street. Like no one ever. I mean, it's just I
It's
was like,
just
they should have chose a different part of town.
stay tuned next week for more slander.
Woo!
Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we will be right back.